Hello everyone. I guess it's 4 already, so I guess we can start. And Gaurav sir has also joined us recently, and hopefully Sumantro sir will also join us soon. We can start this event. Okay. So as you guys can see from the event title that the event title is open source and Linux. These two terms that like the buzzwords that has been going a lot around recently. You might have heard it from your seniors if you are from first year. I guess most of you must be from first year, I guess, and those of you are in second semester, you are in second year you are transitioning to the fourth semester now, I guess. So it will be great, knowing about open source and Linux, these two terms, which, sometimes, in our college journey, which, gets burdened up. And basically, not many people get to know about these terminologies in their college journey, open source and Linux, which are actually, very much valuable, like we, as a students don't really know, like even when I was in first year, when I came, I didn't know about open source or anything like that. I didn't even know the word open source. Like why should I care about open source and why should I care about Linux? If most of you must be knowing Linux as just another operating system, right? That's how I used to think about it, right? And like firstly, I think before going on with the session and introducing our guests we have here, which are directly from the industry, before that, I would like to ask you all some questions. Like, what type of idea do you have regarding open source? Like, have you ever heard of this term before? Like, what really is open source? Or have you ever heard about Linux? Ever used it? You know, don't worry. Even if you have never heard of these terms before, you are totally new to this. You're totally gonna get started from the scratch. From the very base. Knowing about what these actually are and what actually can you achieve and how great of these things are. When I go with the introductions of the people we have here, the two great personalities we have, Gaurav sir and Sumantro sir, when I tell you about them, you will realize how big of a thing these can be. These terminologies we might have never heard can make a huge difference. So first of all, please, we want to make this an interactive session. We have great people over here, and they are so friendly and they are so down to earth people. You will get to know with them. So firstly, I would like to use that chat section because we have that functionality luckily in the Google Meet. So please use that chat section and tell me, if you're excited about today's event and have you ever heard of the term open source or Linux before? Just use that chat section and please write it. We are gonna make this session interactive. You can ask all your doubts that you might have not been able to ask before. So please use that chat section and tell us if you have ever heard of it. Okay, many of you are saying yes, yep, heard of it before. That's great. Even if you haven't, don't worry. We are gonna get started from little scratch. Okay. Can you tell me like what is Linux? Like if in one term, if you can define it, just one term to define what is Linux. Basically, have you ever heard of it or like any single term operating system? Yeah, that's what I was expecting indeed. Yes, an operating system. Freedom. That these are some words that you will hear. Like once you really get into the world of Linux and open source and all that stuff, freedom is gonna be the word you're gonna hear the great, literally, open source operating system. Another great answer. So if you don't know these terminologies, don't worry, we are gonna cover all of that. And yeah, literally way better than Windows. Quite a debatable point. I'm a Windows fanboy. Topic for another day. Yes, and again, I'm seeing all these answers in the chat section that you are writing. You are writing GSOC. Many of people think that GSOC is double equals to open source. It's not like that, and it's not like open source is an event. It's literally a thinking. It's a mindset, and it's way beyond our thinking. Really, it's a huge world out there, and we are going to explore that in today's session. So, well, now that you have answered all these things in the chat section, you can definitely use the chat section throughout the event. You can use this. So, well, without wasting any more time, it's 4-5, and most of you people are so encouraged and excited to know all about it. So, let me introduce you to our guests. Basically, we have Gourav Sharma over here, and we have Sumantro Mukherjee. So, let me go over their brief introduction, and then we can directly hear from them. I hope we right now have Gourav sir also with us, so he can also say a few words about himself. Once I go over the intro. So basically, both of these great personalities work at the Red Hat. Red Hat, you might have heard of it. Some of you might have heard of it as an operating system, Red Hat operating system. But again, we are gonna go explore the beyond the boundaries, like always. So it's much more than that. And those of you who don't know, Gaurav sir is RHCA 17 certified. For references, I should tell you one certification. Look, RHCA level 1 takes 5 certifications of Red Hat to complete. So now you can pretty much guess how many certifications he has completed. And how much experience, like we are literally college students and we are literally enlightened to have these two great personalities over here to talk about open source and Linux. And like again, Gaurav sir, if like anything you would want to say about yourself, like tell people.
So first of all, Aman Bhaiya, Happy New Year to everyone. So what I
Yes, sir,
should
happy
say
New Year.
is like, thank you so much for at least having me out here and giving me this opportunity. And to all the people like here, uh, Aman Bhaiya is so kind and don't trust him, whatever he says. Means I literally, I still don't believe that I have done a bit of certifications or something like that. But my earning says that certifications, yes, sometime you need to showcase it up, but more important is the value that you go around and learn while doing the open source culture ahead. Aman Bhaiya rightly said that open source is nothing, it's not a tool, it is not an operating system or something like that. It is a mindset, it is a culture to be adopted. So moreover, the best part, the thing is, open source is a tool, or if you see it as a tool or it is a culture, I believe I'm a big believer of it. So I revolve my around life, every single bit of moment that I do around open source only. So yeah, let's see how the things we can take it ahead. And I'm quite excited because when I was like, when just Aman Bhaiya said ki, we are gonna talk about all these things, I can see a whole lot of responses out there. Just for once means I'd want to see few faces out there. If you all are comfortable to turn on your webcam, I guess that would be very good to see. Oh, Anand Bhaiya is also there. What best
Mhm.
it could be. Shashwat is there. I believe this is a guy who is like getting in touch with me. Quite a few
Yes,
names,
sir.
which
Yeah.
is quite yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome everyone. So now it seems like yeah, Aman Bhaiya, you can take it ahead
Yeah,
because now we
surely,
have a
sir.
quite good of people. Hey Asta, how are you?
Like I said before, also, like,
I'm
as you
good.
can see from his saying,
Yeah.
like, he's again a very down to earth personality. So it was great meeting you, sir. And like, I hope like you all will be getting great information in today's session. We'll also be having Sumantro, sir. So I guess we don't have him
We
right
already
now.
have. Yeah,
Okay,
he's
that's
there.
great.
He's there.
Okay, we have Sumantro sir. So basically, again, Sumantro sir is another great personality who also works in Fedora, which is an upstream project for Red Hat. Again, once again, great to have you, sir. Like, and those of you who are, going around the buzzwords, he has remained the GSOC mentor, and he's one of the personality who has his name mentioned in the Mozilla Tower. Only a few people have their names listed over there, and he is one of them. And we are so lucky to have him over here. So, on to you, Samantha, sir, if you'd like to share something or tell students in the start, and then we can proceed with the session.
So, thanks to you and Gaurav for inviting me over here. The only thing that I would like to start off with is this is a big journey. All of you guys are, it matters how the journey goes, right? So, as you start, it's not about the ending. Like Gaurav rightly pointed, it's not how many certifications or how many things. It's about more of that learning. So at the end of the day, it all goes down to that set of experiences and the memories and the learning that you have. Right. So yes, let's make the most of this session and then make sure that every one of us go back motivated, charged up to contribute to open source and make the life better for 2021. That would be great.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So, like, we can, I guess, proceed with the session further. Like, any more introductions are not really necessary. You already know that how much experience these two people have in the industry. Like, if I go again, well, like, I can talk for hours. Like, both of these have done great, literally, like, so much experience into open source and like. Sumantro sir, like I said, like directly works in Fedora upstream projects. So like it's all great, and I guess we can start over with Linux, right? Like that. That's how we can start the session. Firstly going over what actually is Linux. Like maybe if I just go over, iterate. Like literally, me as a person, I didn't really knew what Linux can achieve. I have been using Windows from like childhood literally, and like most of us grew from the times when we were using Windows XP and then shifted to 7, and now we have Windows 10. So most of us like have been going through that. And what I really knew is like Linux is just an operating system. That's what I thought it used to be. But like I said, it's much more. And like, so firstly, let's go over the fact like what can we actually call Linux? What is Linux, and is it much more than operating system? Let's go over that.
Sounds great. Okay, let me take it ahead. But
Yeah.
before I jump onto the part that what is Linux, I have a piece of advice that I believe can change you all, or at least bring a smile onto your face. So I request you for just 2 minutes, turn on your webcams. Everybody who all can turn on the cam because we can see around like 72, and I can only see Aman Bhaiya, Anand Bhaiya, Shashwat, and Sumantro sir over here. So, can you all turn on your webcams, please? I'm going to give you a very important tip, a lesson that can actually help you throughout in your life. Okay, how many of you, if you ever get a chance to interact with Sumantro, uh, can directly just unmute and call him by his name? Everybody is smiling out, or even you can call me. Means you just have to unmute yourself and you have to just say, "Hey Gaurav, hey Sumantro." Can you all please do this for me?
Hey
Hey
Gaurav
Gaurav,
sir.
hey
Hey Gaurav
Sumantro.
sir.
Hey Sumantro
Hey
sir.
Gaurav sir.
Hey
You
Gaurav
didn't
sir.
listen to
Hey
me,
Gaurav
people.
sir. Hey
You don't
Sumantro
listen
sir.
to me. You didn't listen to me. I want you all to say, "Hey Gaurav, hey Sumantro."
Hey Gaurav, hey
Hey
Sumantro.
Gaurav,
Hey
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 Sumantro.
Sumantro,
Gaurav.
hey Sumantro. कितना इजी हो गया ना?
Yeah.
यस सर नो?
Sir.
Yes sir.
क्या सर भैया लगा रखा है जैसे उम्र दर्ज के इंसान बना दिए हमें 5 6 बच्चे वाले लोग नहीं है यार हम लोग बहुत छोटे छोटे
बिल्कुल.
बच्चे हैं हम लोग तुमसे छोटे हैं अमन भैया आनंद भैया अच्छा लगता है ये गौरव सर सुमंत्र सर प्लीज मत करो यार
Yeah, exactly.
अच्छा why I want to say you all is that first of all it saves energy तीन शब्द कम बोलने पड़ते हैं second most important thing is because me and Sumantro works in the industry and we have always felt that now imagine a situation like me and Sumantro are over here and let's say one of our delegate come over here who is actually based out of US, right? Now, at the same time, you are the one who is going to interact all three of us, me, Sumantro, and the third person. Let's say Jim Whitehurst is there, right? Or Paul Colmier, who happens to be the CEO of now of Red Hat. And if I talk about like the other guy, or Jim Whitehurst, who is the president of IBM. Now, if I'll ask you to greet us, how you are gonna do it? Good morning, Sumantro sir. Good morning, Gaurav sir. Hey, good morning, Jim. Or hey, good morning, Paul. Doesn't sounds good because when I and Sumantro are interacting, you are calling us as sir, and on the other side, if the person is there, he might feel bad. क्योंकि अच्छा ही नहीं लगता यार जिम सर बोल के देखो देखो सबके चेहरे पे स्माइल आई होगी अब पॉल सर बोल के देख लो तुम मोदी को भी ले आओगे ना एक बार तुम्हारे सामने नरेंद्र मोदी भी आ गया ना तो तुम पीएम डेजिग्नेट कर सकते हो मोदी बोल सकते हो पर उसको उसके मतलब सर नहीं बोलोगे now this culture we say is that we speak you all with out of respect no worries respect the boss bol ke aa jayegi we are happy to have listen our names we have a very good name actually which is easy to pronounce and our parents are damn proud of the name I don't know whether और मेरा तो नाम भी प्राउड ही है तो मतलब मैं तो बहुत ही ज्यादा खुश हूँ गौरव मतलब वैसे भी बहुत सही है right so we don't want this tags so Aman Bhaiya please thank you so much for addressing with that way but like please all of you who, during the entire session and even in the throughout of our life if you are connected with us like via any medium do reach out to us we are happy to help but only at one condition ये सर भैया वगैरह मत लेके आना यार बहुत बुरा लगता है लिटरली बहुत बुरा लगता है right so be open just say our name and we are happy to answer all your queries we are so coming back to the part that Aman Bhaiya just asked ki, what is Linux? So let me show you something. Means while I was preparing it out. So for me, when you say Linux, I guess every single day or every single month of mine actually revolves around Linux itself. So let me just quickly share my screen, and if you all can just let me know if you all can see the screen, please. You all can see the screen, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so now for
Yes, sir.
me, when I say Linux, Fedora, open source, that we all are gonna buzz around. But before that, there are like few people to whom me and Sumantro would love to say thanks for giving us this opportunity to interact with you all. One is your Anand Bhaiya and second is your Aman Bhaiya. So now look how it feels good, right? Aman and Anand. So yes, so basically Aman Bhaiya and Anand Bhaiya, thank you so much. And in the entire DSC team who are here to listen us. I don't know whether we are that much capable that they have created this buzz around, but yes, we definitely try to share our experiences. That what we all have been doing. Just talking about Linux. So before we jump onto Linux, we need to understand the core, or we need to understand the basic, that why it is important to be the diversify in the IT world. And when I say IT, I guess there is a buzzword which says digital transformation, that you all need to be the digital disruptors of this era, because the COVID is here, everybody is working from their home, or you have we and me and you, all everybody is able to talk just via digital medium. Now every single individual will understand what the impact of digital transformation is there in our life. Very important to understand that when we talk about digital transformation, we can only be claimed to be the digital disruptors only and only if you adopt the entire culture altogether. It is not about just learning one or two technology. You just learn the technology. You not are to be here to just be the digital. If you want to be digitally transformed, you equally need to understand the importance of technology. You need to understand the like importance of platform. You need to understand the uh, I should say the people. You need to understand the procedure of process, how it is being developed. So when I talk about like what the digital transformation is, it's all about how you are able to react to the change. Now, when I say change, I guess you can just see in and out around. Like one of the example is your like this banking. लाइक अगर तुम अपने दादा दादी से पूछोगे कि एक टाइम पे वो बैंक से पैसे कैसे निकलवाते थे, they will be answering that they used to go and stand in a queue where they have to fill down a form and the cashier was there and he is gonna do it. But nowadays it just tap and go. Even like in your mobile phones you can like put down the details and you can just tap and go around. So this is like how you are able to adapt the change quickly, and that's the reason these bankings and all other things have started changing out. Because there's a very famous saying, if you don't change quickly, you are already out of the market. So it is very important. Then able to fail fast. So basically, like when you are implementing any idea or any strategy in the industry, you need to understand that how fastly you are able to do that. So there will be a lot of failure, but how you can stand back again. And also you need to keep on innovating while you change the entire process, right? So that is how the digital transformation you can correlate. Now when it could talk about the technology, yes, it basically totally rely on the technology to create the differentiation among you. So basically, as Aman and Anand just rightly mentioned to us, that all the people are from the first year. Now how much diversify your resume is at the end of 7 semesters. So when you are gonna go and sit in front of the employer, they need to see the advantage of the technologies that you have been working on. How much like good you understand the entire ecosystem. So it is not only gonna be like you just learn C and you are hired. No, at the same time, you need to understand the basics of DSA algorithms. Nowadays, you are also need to be proficient in database, and side by side, you also need to understand the importance of platform, or I should say, the operating system. So it's take the entire village, or I should say, the entire technical diversify audience to get recruited and be hired for a good profile. So when I started learning like about these tools in 2012 when I joined college, I guess this is a particular thing which I was able to correlate. And one of my friends said that, hey, Linux is everywhere. And I said, how it can be everywhere? Yeah, Linux is just an operating system. Yeah, ये open source का एक तरीका है कि भाई free में operating system Linux तो world ने दे दिया है. इससे ज़्यादा क्या है? But at the end of the day, when I started digging out on the Google, I was able to correlate that Linux is actually everywhere. And I want to say, like, if you see Linux is operating system, yeah, that is just one of the feature of Linux. But let me show you some of the cases, and then you will understand automatically that why we are saying that Linux is actually important. Very first case is, in a day-to-day life, if you want to see the use of Linux, the practical use of Linux is basically your smartphone. It's already 1.4 billion active Android based users are there, and they all are Linux based, because Android is something that is being acquired by Google. And I believe every individual in today's world is using the smartphone, and they are, yes, the Linux based. Then, if you talk about the computers, the most powerful computers are being called as the supercomputer. 99% of the world's top supercomputer are using the Linux operating system. If you talk about economy strength, 80% of the stock exchanges are purely based on Linux operating system. So if you say that, hey, Linux can be used in like stock markets, yes, they need an operating system which can be like fastly showcase the results. It should be live in sync. And I believe I need not to tell you about the mobile based. You just go down to the settings and you go down to the system, and you can easily see what kernel based is. So whosoever says you from today's world that Linux is an operating system, answer to that would be Linux is operating system. Yes, but that is just one of the feature. Linux is a kernel. So basically it is a set of like code and lines that runs together to produce the results. So the way you want to use it, you can use it. In the similar fashion, Linux is also transforming the transportation, because if you have to go from one place to another, whether you take the cars, so when we talk about the traffic management, one of the most advanced traffic management system is installed in UK, which is called the Queensland Motorway, that entirely runs on Linux operating system. If you talk about the communication medium like the bullet trains in Japan, they are using the Linux operating system. If you talk about the US air traffic control, that entirely runs on Linux operating system. Even if I talk about Indigo, that entirely runs on Red Hat Enterprise Linux itself. If you talk about Air India, yes, they are using Singapore Airlines, they are using Emirates, they are using, and they all are the well-known customer of Red Hat Enterprise Linux itself. So Linux is actually transforming the transportation also. Even if you talk about the Hollywood, I guess this is something that is correlatable to every single individual, because you and me all belongs to the same generation. And if you see Titanic, Titanic was the first feature film produced on Linux server itself. 95% of desktop and servers that are being used for the animation and visual effects. So if you are the one who loves to do the designing, the visual effects and all, they are using the Linux operating system in background. Even if you talk about this, like Lee Scrooge, I guess if you are the fan of animated series and movies, for Lee Scrooge, it took 9100 computing render year to just produce that entire movie. So I believe the capability that Linux can bring in your hand. Even if I take one step ahead, I guess since yesterday, every single individual is talking about a guy called Elon Musk. No introduction is required to that guy. And I believe the SpaceX, his organization where he invested, that is also using the entire Linux operating system. And even he said that yes, Linux is a very integral part of their inventions. Like around 32 space missions have been completed by just using the Linux operating system. Linux is being used by this NASA's Curiosity rover to explore the Mars. मतलब अब जहां पर एलियन है वहां तक तो हम लिनक्स को पहुंचा चुके हैं यार. मतलब अब उससे ज्यादा मैं कहाँ आगे पहुंचाऊं. अब मतलब इतनी हीट सरवाइव कर चुका है, इतना स्पेस में जा चुका है, ठंड बर्दाश्त कर चुका है. तो लिनक्स इज एक्चुअली अ वेरी गुड टूल टू बी एक्सप्लोर्ड. So I personally don't see Linux as an operating system. Linux is actually a platform. Linux is like a, it is just a kernel. Means the way you want to instruct him, it can just start working on it. If you want to use Linux as a database server, yes, it can do it. If you want to use it as a web server, yes, it can do it. If you want to use it as an application server, yes, it can do it. If you want to use it to like make the connections or as a chat server, yes, it can do it. If you want to use it as a security device, yes, it can do the very well. If you want to use it as a firewall devices, yes, it can do. If you want to create your own private cloud, yes, it can do. If you want to use it for automation, yes, it can do. So Linux give you the liberty to explore the things, and that is the most important part. And still, if Linux doesn't excite you, I believe these logo can definitely excite you. And they all are the companies who are using the Linux operating system, or I should say the Red Hat technologies specifically. And when I say Red Hat technologies, every single thing that we build on the Red Hat, that has the core as Red Hat Enterprise Linux itself. So even if you talk about Google, Microsoft, State Bank of India, Tesla, NASA, Datacom, DBS Bank, Indigo Airlines, Cathay Pacific, KBC, Heritage Bank, Airtel, McDonald's, DSC, Amazon, Netflix, Cisco, every single individual is actually using the Linux operating system. And I believe many of you might be also having a dream to get hired in these companies. So platform is equally important to understand that why Linux is important. Let me also give you some more kick around it. So if you see that if you want to get hired, now how people are hiring you or why are people should be hiring you. So there would be a legacy software which is installed in an organization. Now you are the one out of any of the role, you are going to get hired and you are responsible to maintain that entire project or the software. Now, what is happening in the industry in today's world is that people are getting hired and they know their specific tools. Like one of the example is cloud architects, one of the example is system administrator, projects manager, senior developers, database admin. Now, what it is going to create, they are going to hire the individuals now because they don't know how to work on the different technologies. They start implementing their skill sets into that legacy software, and ultimately you can see that software might be also feeling the same pain कि भाई क्यों इतना मुझे मार रहे हो, because they are stretching out the way they want to do it, not actually how the legacy software is supposed to be taking ahead. So it is equally important to understand the each other technology, start building a connect. Once you understand the connect, then you are being understood as a complete package, right? So even if you like, let me take one step ahead, and I was actually surfing on LinkedIn about few days back, and I got a very interesting result, because LinkedIn is something that I believe that every single job seeker like us जाकर के देखता ही है. So I was searching some results, and what I see that what are the topmost IT skills that the IT managers are looking for, and the results were like they are seeking for the open source talent कि भाई the person who knows open source, they are getting a higher chance to get hired. And more importantly, this was the figure that I was able to pull it out, that 87% of hiring managers find it difficult to find the employees with enough open source talent. And that's the reason the legacy software उस dragon की इतनी बुरी हाल चाल है. एंड व्हेन आई सेड ड्रैगन, बिकॉज यार कंपनी बहुत टाइम से उस सॉफ्टवेयर को मेंटेन करके रखा है, आपके एक डिफरेंट स्किल सेट्स की वजह से वो आपको हायर नहीं कर रही है. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड, तुम्हें बहुत बड़ी बड़ी टेक्नोलॉजी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You are stepping into a IT world where you need to understand the basics functionality of it, and basic things can also or just be learned when you are open. And when I say open, it's all related to the open source. Very interesting figure is also there that 80% of hiring managers seeks Linux talent. I'm not specifically talking about which distribution you should learn, but at least you should be having a knowledge of Linux operating system. That yes, you should be knowing that yes, you are the one who knows Linux. And when it talks to job opportunities in today's world, 59% of DevOps engineer, 57% of like the system engineers, or this 49% of system admins are being required by the IT managers. So that's the reason I keep on saying that you should be the one who knows the Linux, and then start working on the open source requirement also. And like if you ask me, hey, okay, these facts are quite good, I believe I need to know more. Yes, you definitely need to know more. and by the session progress, you will get to know a lot about these things. And I believe now, if I'll take a break because it's been quite for 10-15 minutes I'm speaking. Now I believe you definitely have certain reasons that why you should know Linux operating system, or Linux is just not an operating system, it is a kernel that you need to explore. So every single day the new innovation steps in, and like that way. Yeah.
Okay, so let's take from the understanding in the starting point. So, like again, it's quite odd if you start going with that, but like Gaurav said, definitely a start. Yeah. So, like Gaurav said, like you must be knowing, regarding like actually, I should also say, I have been using Windows for quite a while now, and like I am sort of the person who always used to think I can always achieve this on Windows. I probably shouldn't care about Linux. But this session and before these, I've been interacting with great people. So like after this much time, now I actually know Linux is much more than just an operating system. And I guess you all also know, you can always use that chat section, like because like that also gives us that you are not sleeping in the session, right? So just write it, if you got to learn anything, regarding Linux, did you really got to know where it is used, because like these figures that Gaurav showed, they were literally amazing. Like I didn't even knew that it was used in this much, like all the companies that he showed and all these servers, and especially in the film industry, like basically movie industry and animation, that stuff. I especially did not think that it was that capable, but it is indeed, and it's something we should really care about.
The
Like,
interesting part is, Aman, that why people don't know is that the right from the day one, when you took up that laptop or the desktop operating system,
yeah,
absolutely you have been encountered with the Windows operating system. छोटे बच्चे को ना कभी भी
yes,
सीधा जंप
definitely.
करना नहीं सिखाया जाता है. उसको बताया
Mhm.
जाता है कि तू पहले क्रॉल करना सीख, then you start running and walking, and then you start running. Now Linux is something that gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to. But हमारे माँ बाप ने हमें बड़े अच्छे से सिखाया कि पहले थोड़ा restriction समझ लो. So Windows is that something that you
Mhm.
gives the restrictions to you, but Linux is something which is open. Now, one of the fact which I was missing during the presentation, and when you said, I just recalled, everybody is big fan of Microsoft. Do you know that Microsoft Azure has more than 50% of VMs running on Linux operating system itself?
Hey,
So Microsoft, that's
that's
the reason they say
literally a
that
big deal.
Microsoft loves open source. Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah.
Indeed. So, like, I guess most of the questions regarding Linux, like, personally from my side, although I have written, like, why should I care about Linux? All these are literally clear. Now I clearly know why should I actually care about Linux, any particular like these like there's a point of certifications that we should get cleared about, and there is one more, where should I get started with it, and should I get certifications and all that stuff, like because we have been hearing all these terms flying around in the college. Like you knew that this question will be coming, right? Certifications, these are some terms that just goes around in the college, like I want certifications in that, I want certificates in that, and we have also been discussing this for quite a lot of time in DSC, that do they really matter, the certifications, and like where can I get started with, if I want to go with Linux?
Certifications, so if you have to ask me, यार देखो,
Yes,
मैं ना एक काम करके दिखाता हूँ. Let me give me a freedom. This is a chair, right? And I want to sit. I sit. इसके लिए मुझे कोई सर्टिफिकेट नहीं चाहिए. पहले मुझे बैठना आना चाहिए, राइट? अब
yes,
मैं
yes.
तुम्हें ये कहूं कि तुम मानते हो कि मैं इस पे बैठ सकता हूं, और मैं तुम्हें कह दूं कि हाँ ये रहा मेरा सर्टिफिकेट, तुम देख लो, तो एटलीस्ट तुम एक ये बात जान सकते हो कि हाँ, द गाय नो हाउ टू सिट. बट if you want to trust me, I have to show you that I'm sitting right over here. I know how to sit on this chair. So certification just gives an edge, or I should say, they are just going to help you to crack a job. But before that, you need to understand the basics principle or the fundamentals. वो बहुत जरूरी है. मतलब सर्टिफिकेट एक क्लियर कर लेने से डोंट एक्सपेक्ट कि यू आर गेटिंग टू गेट द जॉब, बिकॉज द पीपल हु आर सिटिंग ऑन द अदर साइड, दे माइट इवन नॉट हैविंग अ सिंगल सर्टिफिकेशन. Like if I have to talk about, I did 2023 certificates. There are the people in the industry, or I should say, the people to whom I work every single day, they don't even have one or two. But can you challenge it? No, but they know very basics of Linux because I'm learning from them. So it is never said that the certifications are important. Yes, at some point of time, certification do help you to get the job, but certificates are just the edge that proves that he knows this technology. But until unless you showcase certain, with the help of your projects, with the help of your open source contribution, with the help of valid proof that hey, I know this technology also, and I am certified on this. So if you know this technology, your project is going to speak, and then if I have to give more confidence because he is not getting convinced, then only this certificate is going to help. 10th पास करने के लिए हमें फर्स्ट से 9th तक की पूरी एबीसीडी भी बतानी पड़ेगी.
Yes.
10th का सर्टिफिकेट दिखा देने से आप 10th क्वालिफाई नहीं हो जाते हो. So that's the important thing. So according to me, I would simply say is that certification definitely do it. Means I don't restrict by पैसे हैं तो करो, but until unless you have good projects in your hand, the live projects where you can showcase about the open source contributions and all, I guess that would be way good ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so all these certifications point are also clear now. And like these are the only things like basically which can particularly come like from our perspective. If you guys have any question regarding Linux or anything in general up till now, so please use that chat section and you can write it in that, and like probably Gaurav and Sumantro both can try to answer that.
Yes.
You know, yeah, like it
Definitely, I'll
has.
try to answer it, but now I believe there is a need
Yeah,
Sumantro
I
to step
guess
in.
definitely.
Yeah.
Sumantro sir has already started giving answers in chat section.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can
So,
definitely see that.
so let's see the questions. It's actually
Yeah.
clear. So the way it goes is the first thing was VirtualBox. So if you are comfortable to run any operating system, you can do it in any virtual environment. I mean, if VirtualBox doesn't work for you, let me give you a better idea. Just use a live boot on a pen drive, and that should just work like butter smooth. It cannot go bad ever. Like that's the easiest way. So if you want to just experiment out with stuff, use a live USB. If that would just get things done. But if you want to just run things on VirtualBox, at least on Fedora, GNOME 3 works perfectly fine. So if you have bugs, let me know. I would be happy to look at them. At least that's my job. Difference between Linux and Unix. Okay, this is a very interesting question. So I'd like to answer it like this. कभी रेस्टोरेंट में when you go, you see there are like, तुमको ना बोला जाता है कि there's a combo offer. एक पराठा के साथ तुमको चिकन करी मिलेगा या पनीर मिलेगा, and you have to eat paratha like a paratha. You cannot have it like a roti. So you have to have it with butter, even though it tastes horrible, or it may taste good, but you have to have it like a paratha. There is no options that's given to you. It's the same way. Let's say मैंने आपको एक टी-शर्ट दिया and I tell you कि 5 साल बाद अगर ये टी-शर्ट को पोछा बनाना है, आप नहीं बना सकते. So Unix is something like that. It gives you a set of rules and you have to follow those rules. अगर आपने उस rule को follow नहीं किया, you would get into something called intellectual property violation or IP violation, in short. In Linux, you have the same thing. You have exactly the same thing, but there are no rules, right? So you can literally do whatever you want, however you want in Linux. Like आपको अगर मैंने एक operating system दे दिया, इसका मतलब है you own it, and I don't control what you do with that operating system. In Unix, if I have given you a desired set of functionality, आपको उसी फंक्शनलिटी को उसी तरीके से यूज करना होगा जैसे मैंने आपको बताया. Like there is no other way to get that. So Linux offers a lot of freedom. Unix doesn't. That's the primary way to go. So if you look at Unix, biggest example is Mac, your MacBook, right? So try overclocking your MacBook sometime, and it might just give you a very different kind of problem. So, but you can do that with almost every other Linux laptop. So, for that matter, even some of the Windows machines, high-end ones. But yeah, you get the gist. What you want to learn in Linux? Okay, so आपको Linux कहाँ use करना है उसके ऊपर determine करता है कि what you want to learn as commands or something else. So let's say if I want to use Linux for ethical hacking, so I would learn the tools that I can use on top of Linux. तो मेरे को उतना commands का usage नहीं होगा, but I would want to know the tools. If I'm looking at a software developer, I would be wanting to know how can I automate some of the stuff. Like how can I get, let's say, if I want to compile my code, I would want to have the entire compile command wrapped into one single word. So I can just type compile, enter, and it just should run every single thing that I do to compile my program and then, run the program. So it depends on what you want to use this Linux for. Like in my case, as someone who is a quality engineer, when I test something, so let's say if I'm testing kernel, right? मेरा function होता है कि to look at it from a performance perspective. Like boot हो गया, machine चल रहा है, but I want to make sure this stays up. Like you do not have to shut down your machine every 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So I have to make sure that your machine keeps running without having memory locks or it doesn't hang, stuff like that, right? So it depends on exactly what I want to know, and that is how the learning goes. So first fix what you want to do with the Linux. So you can have multiple virtual boxes running multiple Linux for multiple things. So that's that's the way easy hota hai if you want to segregate your purpose. Okay, let's see. How to start Linux from scratch. Great example. So when you want to start Linux from scratch, the biggest example that I give is कोई भी operating system लो Linux का, it can be Kali, it can be Fedora, it can be Ubuntu, it can be anything. Take any operating system you're comfortable. For getting started, very easy operating systems are Fedora and Ubuntu. It's the most appreciated ones you can go for that, like easy. So when you actually want to start with learning Linux, get any operating system and then start learning different components inside. Like, for example, think of it like, agar mere ko, I use mostly Fedora because that is the same operating system Linus Torvalds uses when he compiles the kernel, right? Because that's his go-to distribution. So I get to have the same features that he has when he has made that kernel. And the same way a lot of other developers use it because they would go ahead and use the same features that Linux Torvalds would have given a preview of, which would be releasing in the next couple of days and stuff like that. So to get started, take any operating system which is based on Linux. Whatever is easy to use for you. Fedora is the go-to for me because it is being used by a lot of other people. And then start digging into components. Like start finding a purpose and digging into components. That should get the work done. Why companies prefer Linux? This is a good question. Gourav, you are a solution architect. Why would companies prefer Linux?
Actually, there is some problem in his mic. He just texted me. He's sorting it out.
Okay, so I guess this question can be, I can partially tackle this question. So to start with, if you look at Linux is free to distribute. It's pretty much free to use. You don't pay for licenses. And if you want to actually still have support, you can go for things like that. So in case of, think about it like this. Tomorrow, you wake up and let's say your operating system has been diagnosed with a severe security bug and your data is lost, or your data is corrupted, something happens, right? If you look at Microsoft's standpoint, Microsoft will roll out an update as fast as they can, but there is no essential way for you to tell when this is going to come to you, or this update is going to come to you, or if there is at all a possibility that the thing it is going to fix is going to actually get fixed. Because nobody else knows what the code is going for that particular problem or a fix, right? So when we look at Linux, people prefer Linux because they can see what code goes into the system, that they can actually see, as much as they can see the problems, they can also see what are the possible solutions, what are the ways they can make things faster. And much like that, right, a lot of people use Linux, a lot of companies use Linux because one, it is customizable to their hardware. So if they're having a very specific hardware, they want to customize everything to their specific hardware needs, they can actually do that, which is kind of impossible to go for if you are using Windows or something. But the idea here is that the security, the tunability of that particular operating system matches the company's needs. That's the technical aspect of using Linux. I mean, Gaurav can be more onto the profitability part or how it serves as an entire ecosystem part. So Gaurav should be able to answer on that angle of things. But okay, so hey everyone, can we use Linux on a PC side by side with Windows? Yes, you can dual boot. You can use, you know, you can use actually, if you're using Windows 10, it comes with a very tiny shell. I think that is called the Ubuntu shell at this point. Hey, if you want, you can still run your Linux commands in there, and that should work. I mean, the bash command should work. So you don't need to actually if you just wanted to have a hand at Linux, not the entire operating system, just the shell bits, you can actually go ahead and start using the thing that comes with Windows, and then you can, when you're kind of sort of sure that you want to migrate to a full Linux-based operating system, use it on a virtual box or have it dual booted, stuff like that. Remember, when you are dual booting, it's a very weird thing because a lot of times when you dual boot, your Windows might just crash. Your data just might be hanging around there. So if you're dual booting, it's best to keep in mind that, I don't actually suggest dual booting right away because a lot of people install and then they have trouble using hardware after that, the system. But I would suggest if you are getting into it, it's easier to go for virtual machines or live boot rather than to start with dual booting if you don't have fair idea of how to fix issues with ground or the Windows bootloader. Like, these are the two major critical components of dual booting. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess we can. Yeah, we can take up more questions. Yes, sir. So we can take up more questions later on. As when this thing starts, we can just go on over and over. So I guess there's some recognition of voice from one side. Uh, anyone can mute. Yeah. Yeah. So, regarding the Linux point of view, all these questions are little interesting. We are seeing that, and if you have a very particular question regarding anything, I would say, asking them how to do a boot, would be overkill. We can definitely solve all these type of doubts on the Discord server, right? We have a Discord server. We can, just someone can drop in a link in the chat section. You can join that, or Telegram. You can ask particular doubts there. We should go for a broader perspective, right? Gaurav, like Sumantro sir said, we should go over a broad perspective. Now that you are clear about Linux and have heard from these two people, let's shift to a particular more topic. Many of you were saying, I heard some term like regression testing regarding the kernel, right? So I think most of you are quite interested about testing out kernel, and especially the term how can you contribute as a person into this particular thing, right? How can you as an individual make a difference into this particular thing? So now let's I would request both Sumantro and Gaurav sir to move on to what is Fedora, right? We have been talking over this term, right? Fedora Linux, and the one Linux, the Linux that Linus Torvalds uses, right? The creator of the Linux kernel itself, right? All the Linux is an open source project, and you can contribute. So let's go with the fact like what actually is like if you can just drop on more light on the fact that what actually is Fedora, and like again, how can we as an individual get started and contribute into that particular stuff?
हम 2 मिनट बाहर क्या गए, तुमने हमें गौरव सर फिर से बोलना शुरू कर दिया है।
अरे
हम समझ रहे थे, हम समझ रहे हैं, हम समझ रहे हैं। इन्होंने लिनक्स प्रोबोट को सर नहीं बोला है। बच्चों तुम्हारे सामने है, देख लो अमन भैया कैसे कर रहे हैं। हम कहते गए 1 मिनट को कि भाई हमका गौरव ही बोलिए, बट इनका क्या बताएं। हाँ,
Gaurav,
just for the
okay,
fun part. We
I
understood.
will definitely keep that in mind. It just came to mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So definitely it is gonna help you actually because
Yeah.
you will be the one who is going to step into the industry. And I have been facing this problem because when I'm in a meeting of like 10, 15 people, I keep on like asking myself, I have to designate him with a sir, ma'am, or something like that. ऊपर से कुछ नाम ऐसे आ जाते हैं तुम सर मैम भी डिसाइड नहीं कर सकते हो. कुछ गलत बोल दिया तो गए काम से. तो it's better to speak out with the name, right?
Yeah.
So easier. Now talking about Fedora. So now thing is Linux is like a way broader term to be used. One of the question came over here from Miti, I guess. So how you can create the projects? So basically Fedora itself is a project. Now you need to know that how you can contribute to the Fedora. So Fedora, I don't say that Fedora is just an operating system. Fedora itself is a project that Red Hat uses as an upstream to basically align all the functionality of Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system. Now, when we say Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, so enterprise itself is something that we need as an assurance. So we have our upstream project which is called Fedora. Now this Fedora people or like the people, all of you like you individual, start putting your ideas like motives, your testings and every single thing into that. Now when I'm as a person who needs any support, I cannot completely rely on you. And when I say completely rely on you, I am saying that I cannot completely rely on the community because I don't know whether you are available or not. I don't know whether Aman or Anand will be able to do it because they are the one who has created that feature or something like that. So I need an assurance. So I need a support. I need the certification that yes, this is particular technology is certified. And when I say certification, that means certification to certify this technology is compatible to hardware or software or not. So that what the Red Hat engineers does. Now, when I say Fedora, I believe we have a very good person. So Sumantro is basically a Fedora org admin. So all the Google Summer of like code fan out there, I believe he'll be the right person to explain you that what Fedora project is all about and how you can get started with your contribution. So over to you, Sumantro. Means you can take it ahead.
Yeah, Gaurav, thanks for that introduction. So, I have been in Fedora for about 4 years now, almost 4 years, right? And so before this, I used to be open source contributor. I used to contribute to Mozilla, and you know, after a lot of working in closed source, open source, I finally switched to open source fully, which is when I joined the Fedora team, right? And here's the thing, a lot of people, like Gaurav said, would look at Fedora as a operating system, something that we basically give out, right? Here is the thing, Fedora is an operating system on the face, or if you look at it from very big global perspective, it's an ISO that we make every 6 months, and that ISO gets shipped to the people. That's that, right? But the very interesting part of the entire equation is that it is not just the ISO. We ship what we call as an entire community with the ISO. And what that means is, as a Fedora project, we stand on 4 pillars, right? And these are the 4 pillars, and some of that would be touch basing on what Gaurav already said, but this is what the important part of Fedora's mission is. So I'm gonna quickly share my screen and I'm gonna present something to you guys. So that would make some more sense. So, if you look at Fedora as at least as a operating system, you would be able to figure out that it contains.
Okay, I believe. Oh shit. There was some connection dropout at his end. So okay, while he jump back means towards coming back to the Fedora part, he has some issues. He's just gonna join in a minute. So no problem. Okay, so by the time means he was just talking about the Fedora project. So yes, Fedora is one of the organization that participate in Google Summer of Code, that participates in Outreachy and many other programs. So you can definitely be a part of the Fedora project, and it is very easy to get signed. Means for all the time till the time Sumantro just figure it out, the voice part. If you have a question in your head that what I can do for Fedora, put as it is word. The word which I just said means what I can do for Fedora.
Can you guys
Just
see
go.
my?
Yeah, now we can even hear you also, and we can see the screen.
Wow. So, sorry. My kernel got dumped. Pros of running kernel regression on the background, but okay. So,
5.10 testing, sir.
Yeah.
So exactly.
फिर से सर आ गया ना
So,
आनंद भैया अमन भैया. Now
Yes.
every single time they are going to say the sir guys, we are going to let them stand and dance for us.
Okay,
that would be
I'm gonna make sure not to use that.
Okay, so I have just put it down a link called "What Can I Do for Fedora." Just post it on Google, and you will understand that what it can get started with. Now over to you, Sumantro. Yeah.
So, Fedora is based out of 4 fundamental pillars, right? The first thing that almost everything that was covered in the first part of the session was freedom. Legally, you can distribute Fedora, and that's one of the freedoms that we give. So, as open source, people say, "Hey, can you share the code? Can you share the software? Is this copyrighted?" It is not. Like, we give you the 100% right to ship or rather redistribute anything. In fact, we go up till that extent that we even support that you create your own Fedora. Like, we say, if you don't trust us as an operating system, go create your own Fedora, and we will give you everything that is necessary for you to create your own Fedora. So that is up till you can create your own ISO. That's the level by which we are giving you the freedom. The open source gives you the freedom to work with whatever the code there is, right? The next thing is friends. And this is exactly why Gaurav, and a lot of other open source folks, they would ask you to communicate in a first name basis. No bhaiya, no sir. It's because, when you meet a friend, think of a general situation. You're meeting someone over Facebook. You're meeting someone over a social media, right? For us, we meet a lot of people over conferences. We don't know their age. We don't know their experience. We don't know what they are like. It's very hard for us to call them a sir or address them with anything for them. They're like friends to us. We are talking to them because, let's say, we want to talk, we want to share something, we want to, let's say, grow. We have some understanding of a software that I want to learn from them. So anyway, when we communicate with them, we don't actually go and say, sir. We just address them as friends. And guess what happens when you do that? With the long-term usage of these friends, you all become a very big part of something called family. Right? And now, when it becomes a family, you would see a lot of people would start showing care about the problems and problems in community, problems in, let's say, for yourself. Like today, I have, if I want, I can have one-on-one interactions with the project leaders of Fedora. And in fact, a lot of other open source folks, including the person who made even AC Linux. He is one of the guys who mentors for GSOC for Fedora, Dan Walsh. And, they are so friendly in nature. They would come, they would talk to you, and they wouldn't even feel like that. You wouldn't even feel like that they have done so much. it would feel like, okay, this is one guy who has been able to help us learn something new. And hence the point, right? The other thing that Fedora focuses on is features. Like Gaurav rightly pointed, that the community is all about features. So biggest example is, if you look at Facebook, the entirety of Facebook's developer who use Linux use Fedora as an operating system. And here's the thing, all their developers need Fedora by default to be installed on their laptop to work. And it's because of the fact that we give a lot of features in Fedora, which are, some of them are enabled by default, a lot of them are not. But the idea here is that the innovation keeps going on in Fedora more than just code fixing. We change a lot of things in Fedora much faster than we would change in Red, or for that matter, anything like enterprise set of things. That is exactly where Red Hat's, Red Hat tries to support, or rather have a certification process for. But idea here is that we put out a lot of innovation as a part of features. And when this innovation goes out, there are people who needs to be on the development end of things. There are people who needs to be on the testing end of things. And then there are people who are like on the documentation end of things, the design end of things. And all of these people, 80% of them are contributors. They contribute features to Fedora, and those features are used by tens of thousands of people around, including people at Facebook, at Google, and the biggest one being Linus Torvalds himself. Right? That's the level of reach a developer has, or a tester has, when they work on Fedora as a project, right? But here's the core thing. We try to implement something before that gets even implemented in the project. So like, here's the thing. We turn the entire, so if you have looked at Fedora for last 1 year, it has changed a lot of things. One of the biggest changes that we have done in recent years, we've changed the entire file system to something called BTRFS, which was used to be LVM plus ext4. We changed that to BTRFS. It's a very different file system. It offers a lot of features. Some of them are still in testing, and Facebook uses those features a lot. And we changed all of these. The innovation is because we wanted Facebook community to participate with us, to be our friends. And guess what? Suddenly we have about thousands and thousands of servers inside Facebook running on BTRFS file system, and they have been giving us out their bug reports, their reports of performance and scaling, and we are able to go ahead and we are able to say, hey, this is a very good thing. We are gonna use, we are gonna keep innovating on these results. So these are the four primary pillars on which Fedora stands. Now, Gaurav, would you like to share your little bit experience with how you felt Fedora as a community, and then I can touch base on the contribution in the things.
Yeah. So thank you, Sumantro, for taking that part, that when we talk about Fedora, it's all about friends and family, giving you the freedom of speak. Now, if you ask me, I was the one who actually don't know much about coding. Means till date, if you ask me, I don't know about any single language. Means even if you give me this turbo C interpreter and ask you to just do hello world, 100% I can assure you, मैं उसमें एक आधी गलती कर ही दूंगा. 100% मैं गलती कर दूंगा. Now the thing was, when I met Sumantro in 2017, I reached out to him by saying that I don't know coding. मुझे नहीं आता, but I still want to do the contribution. Now tell me, is there any way that I can do the contribution? Now, as being a friend, and I opened to him, I gave him the freedom to just tell me that what are the various options. There were actually the various options that I can help them in doing the testing of the packages, because ultimately Fedora or like any operating system is gonna help, going to have a lot of packages. Like I was reading through the chat, and there were few people who might have this thinking that if I have to run Microsoft Office, how I'm gonna run on my Linux operating system. So Linux को थोड़ी सी पिला दो, मतलब टल्ली कर दो, वो भी झूमता हुआ कुछ ना कुछ कर ही देगा. And similar thing happens. So there is a package called Wine. So now thing is, you install the Wine and you can run the exactly the same packages that you were running on the Windows operating system. Now you can run on the Linux operating system. Now I asked him that, hey, how I can test it. Now Wine software as a functionality, what it is going to do, it is going to allow you to run the Windows packages. So you install the Wine package, you just test that whether your packages are running fine or not after deploying it, and that's actually a use case. So he just explained me that, can you help me in writing this? Yeah, I can do it. I just captured all the screenshot, I could start performing, and he asked me that, okay, document it. I documented it, and now the thing is, this I made a contribution, because similar thing, one after the other, you might be also coming and going to see it. So as a Fedora person, what I did, I made a contribution by documenting it. But before documentation, I actually tested it. So I made sure that whatever the package the Fedora is going to ship is being assured. And that's where I say that I am also a Fedora assurer, quality assurer, that yes, the package is going absolutely fine. And that's the responsibility of your quality engineer. Similar thing, if I jump one step more back, how Fedora is running on your operating system. Is the kernel is running fine or not? Absolutely correct, that I have to check it. So I can also participate in the kernel test day. Okay, that is also good. Now kernel test days is done. I have documented something, but how I am going to see it? So now that GNOME shell, is it running fine or not? Is the terminal GNOME terminal is running fine or not? There are a lot of other things that you can side by side test, document, and even if you are one of those who loves to design, you can also do all those particular things. Now that is what the exact project is called. There are few developers, there are good friends of yours who are writing the code for you, but you can help them in validating their code. You can help them to do the things. Now let's assume even you are even worse than me, कि भैया अपने को तो टेस्टिंग भी नहीं आती है, अपने को कोडिंग भी नहीं आती है, सर अभी भी बताओ क्या कुछ कर सकते हैं. Definitely you can help it. Now those people are called the Fedora Advocates. Now who are the Fedora Advocates? Who basically helps to promote the Fedora organization. Means if you are the one who has a great reach now in today's time or at the current scenario, what Aman and Anand just did, they actually invited us and they help us to share our views of Fedora to you. So in a way, we are introducing you to the Fedora org or the Fedora community. And that's what the spreading of words is all about. मतलब फ्रेंड क्या करते हैं, एक दूसरे को अच्छाई चीजें तो बताते हैं, और हम वही कर रहे हैं. Okay, let's do it. And that's how you basically start doing a valid contributions. Now, if you are making a commit, you are seeing the developer side of it. But at the same time, if you are making the changes, Fedora also see that part as a contribution. So if you are the one that who doesn't love the coding part, absolutely okay. We have a lot of other ways to contribute as well. And I guess being Sumantro as a council member, being ex-council member at Fedora, he'll be the right person to tell you what are the different ways to tell. Yeah, over to you, Sumantro. We cannot hear you actually, or you were not
Can you
saying.
hear me now?
Now we
Yeah.
can. Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So here's the important thing. Every time you use a Linux operating system, right, you would want to. So every day I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I open my laptop and I'm like, dude, what's the new thing in Fedora today? And here's the thing, every day something or the other is coming. Like every single day, something or the other changes in Fedora. And I don't know who is writing what, who is having what contribution done to it. I don't see it today. I see it tomorrow morning when I run a command called sudo dnf update. The moment I do that, it hits me with a lot of packages that have been, updated in Fedora. The thing is that the packages that are updated in Fedora, I don't have exact knowledge of who updated it, but I know for a fact that this changed or fixed something or added something here. And it's for me now to figure out how I can help. So we have a site called Fedora Updates System. This is the update system. And idea here is that I would go to any of the releases. Like for example, I can go to the current release, which is 34, which is being built right now. And if you look at it, there are this number of packages which are basically currently unstable, and a lot of packages are there which are gonna be in testing state or pending state and stuff like that. The idea would be to kind of open up each of these packages. So this is a SLNX policy. If I open up this package, if you look at it, it has a change log of what exactly changes happened in this particular update. And then, you know, you can, if you want, you can actually add a feedback. So if I log in currently, you know, I should be able to add a feedback over here saying, oh, well, this package works fine. Technically, you would need a fast account. So if you look at it, currently this package has been pushed to stable, but if you want to test it, you can install this particular package and you can go test it at this point, and it should basically be fine for all the people, because this package is built by Dan Walsh himself, and it's compiled by him, tested by him. So there is a lot of trust that goes in. But here's the thing: if you wanted to test a package, you can go test a package. And if you want to have a specific package tested, like for example, let's say if I wanted to, let's say, have Firefox. So, you know, let me see if there's a Firefox 84. So if you look at it, Fedora 32 Firefox currently has a, you know, a package update going on, and it says that it fixes some security and stability issues. So, you know, if you are one of those people who is willing to test, just install the package using this command. And then, you know, if things work fine, you can just come back over here and add a kernel. So that's a simple way of basically giving a feedback that this thing works fine. The other way to look at it is there is something called the image testing, which is this. So hereby we have a lot of Fedora images, the images that we ship. You can download each and every one of them. And then there are a bunch of test cases that you can run. The idea here is that, you know, choose a Linux variant of your choice, be it cloud, be it server, be it you know, a specific spin, be it a container. You know, choose whatever you want and then get started with it. As Gaurav rightly pointed somewhere in the chat, if I can remember, what can I do for Fedora? That actually gives you a lot more into what you can do as a designer, as a QA, as a documentation writer. And here's the thing, you know, let's say when you open the site up and you see design, and if it is something that you want to do, in my case, I am not good at design. And let's say if I go to just things like, you know, QA and testing, and if I say tell more, and the moment I open the sounds awesome, it points me to a page that we maintain called the Wiki Page. And if you look at it, it gives you the 5 steps which are required for you to get started with a particular part of the project. If you want to just do a contribution, if you want to get started with anything, you know, follow that link. It will lead you back to a wiki. And in a wiki, you should find steps to get started. So this is for the QA. If you want to go for design or documentation or whatever you want to, you know, just make sure you have a fast account. It will help you how to create that fast account. Get started with a QA group, and then, you know, you can start contributing. That's the easiest way to get started when it comes to Fedora. But overall, if you look at the project, the best part is the moment you get started and you contribute something, you can put it up on your resume, and that is exactly the biggest thing you can showcase to the world. So when I joined Red Hat, nobody actually asked for my resume. They asked me if I have contributed upstream, and I used to maintain my blog at that point of time. I used to write a lot of articles. I still do write a lot of articles. And they all they asked me was, "Hey, we read your blog. It's very interesting. Will you be willing to work with us?" And I said yes. Up till the point Gaurav started Cheers with Gaurav, I did not even have my LinkedIn account. And Gaurav pushed me a lot to create a LinkedIn account after that. But here's the thing, when you start contributing, the day you start contributing, know that it's going to go big and you are going to get somewhere, you're going to get opportunities which are way bigger than you think you can normally get if you just do normal projects and pet projects. If you're all my all the people that I have worked with as a part of GSOC intern. So this year was a bit silent because we don't have a lot of things going on in GSOC this year. But last year because 2020. But the idea was every year GSOC folks actually go and attend something like an annual conference of Fedora every year. They go, they attend that conference, and they present what they do, and they don't present to like a group of like 5, 10 people, 15 people. They present to a hall full of audience, from people who develop Fedora server to the creator of SA Linux to people who maintain kernel to all the project managers at Red Hat, people from Ubuntu, people from Facebook, people from Linode, people from Capital One. These are the people from AWS. They come up to attend these conferences, and when you present your projects to them, that starts creating the difference between just any other project versus you being an open source contributor. Because you get that highlight, you get that push, you get that extra mileage to go for when it comes to, at least in comes to Fedora. Gaurav, would you like to add something?
Definitely, Sumantro. Means it is equally important that when you say community, it's not a single individual that who contributes, or it is not only the one company person that can present the view. It's take the entire village, or it's take the entire set of like-minded people who are willing to work for the better upliftment of that particular project. So Sumantro rightly mentioned that if you want to get hired at a company like Red Hat, or the people who uses Linux and they know the capabilities of open source, they're not going to ask you for a resume. Your contribution are going to say it loud and clear, right? So that is the most important thing. And I guess now you have a lot of bunch of things that you can do, and means like designing, QA, testing, advocacy, like documentation, and many other things. And if you still need more details, so luckily during this pandemic, I realized that these sessions are somewhere where we lack in like certain things that we cannot go and upfrontly say, or we miss out something. So that's the reason I created a channel where I start recording and doing the podcast. And I believe Anand would be very helpful if you can just share down the link. So I did an entire Fedora session with Sumantro, and we discuss all the capabilities in detail. You can go there and watch it, and side by side, luckily or unluckily, today we are also going to do the live kernel testing from 8 to 9 p.m. today itself. So if somebody want to just see and get started with the kernel testing and earn some batches, now when I say earn these batches basically means that you have done a valid contribution. So you can come out, you can see me and Sumantro discussing about all the regression testings and every single thing. So that is also one of the way you can just simply go and check it out. And thank you so much, Anand, for and Aman actually for sharing that link for the people. So one thing which I want to specify over here, that if I am an employer, if I want to see you coming out with your resume, I'm not interested in hearing that you know table tennis, you know badminton, you read a lot of novels, you are the big fan of animated movies. No, I am not interested at all. I want to see some valid contributions that you are doing, and how I can judge that. So Sumantro just pasted one of the link which says that open batches.fedora like project.org. This is what everything defines. It means what you have to do, just go and click on the link, and you can see what I have been doing. I have been testing the packages, I have been doing the varied contribution, I'm taking some leave during my week. So basically I know how to balance my profession and my passion. So open source is basically going to define your passion, while you are working for anything can define with your like profession. So that's equally important, how to balance the life out. Because open source, as Sumantro says, gives you the freedom. Nobody is going to ask you to go ahead and contribute. It's your only wish to make the like-minded people enable. Like all of us, we are making the Fedora enable. If we stop, how somebody else is going to take like best out of it? So it takes the entire like people to do the things. So that's how it is working out.
So I guess we can sum up the Fedora thing with that. Like
Yes.
basically, even I got to know that like there is literally a huge community out there for like something that not many people hear of. Like and like generalizing all this. I've also been trying open source and stuff. Like for the past 1 year or so. So like what I've realized, like, this is a general thing. What you have heard from Gaurav and Sumantro is like, we have gone Fedora specific, right? But there's literally a huge world out there for every single project you can think of. Like there are communities of people and people, for different type of projects. And, literally speaking, I would say this, the open source gives you a new life, I would say. Like, this is a very, like, I would say overrated statement for some people, but like, this is something which is quite underrated for me. Open source is something that can actually give you a new life. Like, it's totally not just about your professional life, but it gives you new meaning to discover thing, to explore thing. So with that, like, now you know that how to contribute in Fedora. Likewise, like, you can always search for these things, communicate with people if you want to contribute in any other organization, right? So with that, let's move towards, like, towards the ending. Like, we should move towards what really is open source in its true essence. Like, let's hear more about that. Like, because like some of you, like when we were interacting with you, you were people were saying like GitHub, right? Like something that you might have heard from very like of your seniors, like that you should do more projects, and like collaborate with people, do GitHub, and like how open source can actually affect this, like till to the last of the journey. Like how can you actually even land a job with open source, like these people did, of course. Like like how to, like, open source basically, and what really is open source. Like let's move towards
Okay.
that, right?
I got it. So let me, like, before I explain that what actually open source is all about, let me take a minute pause over here, because everybody might be feeling hungry or thirsty right now. प्यास प्यास लगी होगी. अच्छा, मुझे एक advice करो सब लोग who all can unmute themselves or they can come on the screen. I like I want to actually right now want to, if I wish to take a break, if like everybody allows, but certainly we don't have that freedom. But if I'll ask you, I want to have a lemonade right now. I want to just drink lemonade at this point of time. What all things I need? Can someone please help me?
A glass of water,
A
more
glass
than
of water,
lemon,
ठीक है, glass
sugar,
ले लिया.
and
ग्लास ले
lemon.
लेते हैं. लेमन लेना पड़ेगा, बिल्कुल लेमनेड बना रहे हैं, लेमन डालना ही पड़ेगा. और बताओ, और क्या डालना है?
Knife, lemon काटने
नाइफ,
के लिए.
बिल्कुल नाइफ भी चाहिए भैया. मम्मा नाइफ ले आओ भाई. अच्छा, और लेमन
Sugar,
ही नहीं मिलेगा घर पे.
धनिया
शुगर चाहिए,
धनिया डाल दो, मजा आ
धनिया डाल
जाएगा
दो,
सर।
मजा आ जाएगा ना. बिल्कुल मम्मा, धनिया भी. अच्छा, और
नमक भी डाल लो थोड़ा सा, मतलब
थोड़ा
अच्छी
सा
रहेगा।
काला नमक, और वो भी डाल लेते हैं. मतलब ओके, काला नमक डाल लेते हैं.
भुना
और
हुआ जीरा भी डाल दो।
भुना हुआ जीरा भी डाल दो. ये पक्का कोई लड़की ही एडवाइस कर सकती है ना सर. हेल्दी भी पी लो थोड़ा सा. अच्छा, और कुछ डालना होगा क्या लेमिनेट करके
मिक्स करने के लिए स्पून।
करने के लिए?
स्पून
ये
लगे
मेरा भाई हो सकता है कोई जो मेरे को सही एडवाइस करेगा, भैया स्पून से करना, उंगली डुबा के ऐसे ऐसे घुमा के नहीं करना है.
One straw.
वन स्ट्रॉ. ये तो पक्का हाइजीनिक लड़का होगा हमारे ग्रुप का कोई ना कोई, तो ना भाई ऐसे सीधा मग उठा करके ऐसे गड़गड़ करके पियेंगे. ओके. अच्छा, टंकी भर गई भाई, टंकी भर गई है. अच्छा. ओके. सो नाउ व्हाट आई वांट टू आस्क यू, you all said a different things to me, right? What you all started doing when I said you an idea that, hey, I want to create a laminate, I want to make a laminate. What you all started doing? You started throwing some ideas or the ingredients. You actually realize you just did a contribution to my project. What my project was, I want to create a laminate. I just gave you a name, laminate. It creates a lot of kind of a buzz out there. Like laminate will be having water. You need a glass to fulfill it. You need a water. You need some salt, sugar, coriander, bunawa, jeera, straw, knife, a lemon itself, and you need a stirrer. XYZ things. Or even you can say you need some ice to add a flavor onto it. Some uh, XYZ things, right? Now, this is what open source is. Sumantro rightly mentioned that you should have a freedom to say, I gave you the freedom. You all are my friends. And what you just did, you just helped us to build a project. You realized? Now, this is what open source is all about, where you have a freedom to speak, you have a project, and you start contributing to it. But one important thing is there. Now, if I'll ask you, who suggested me what ingredient, how I am going to track that part? No idea. Everybody feels start strange. Similar thing
Notepad,
might happen. हाँ?
नोटपैड पे लिख सकते हैं
मतलब अब नोटपैड पे मैं क्या क्या लिखूंगा कि किस टाइम पे
सर
किसने मुझे क्या क्या बोला था?
ट्राई
ए,
एंड टेस्ट
ए,
करना चाहिए ना, मतलब
मतलब ट्राई एंड टेस्ट है, बिल्कुल सही है। पर अब मान लो कि यार मुझे कोई कंट्रीब्यूशन अच्छा नहीं लगा, बट किसी और को तो अच्छा लग सकता है,
हाँ, मतलब
right? Who doesn't
ऑब्वियस
know? Means I'm not a big fan of like having मीठा
सेपरेट
मतलब
ब्रांच,
laminate. हाँ,
सेपरेट
तो अब
ब्रांच,
सेपरेट ब्रांचेस वगैरह बना दूं, कुछ इस तरह की चीजें करूं, राइट?
गिट यूज करेंगे।
तो टेक्निकल वर्ल्ड के अंदर जसकरण जी बहुत एडवांस हो गए यार, तूने मेरा पॉइंट छीन लिया है, बट ठीक है, ऑल क्रेडिट गोस टू यू। सिमिलर थिंग हैपन यार, जब लिनस टोरवाल्ड ने एक्चुअली के अंदर जब लिनक्स दिया हमें हमें कर्नल दिया, ही वाज आल्सो फेसिंग द सेम इशू दैट हर कोई कुछ ना कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करके हमें दे रहा है, बट हाउ आई एम गोइंग टू गिव अ प्रॉपर स्ट्रक्चर टू इट? At the end of the day, it's all about how you access the things in a right fashion. यार मैं कुछ भी थोड़ी ना डालता रहूंगा, मुझे हर एक चीज का प्रॉपर स्ट्रक्चर चाहिए। इसीलिए लिनस टोरवाल्ड ने एक वर्जन कंट्रोल सिस्टम हमें लाके दिया, विच इज कॉल्ड गिट, right? So that's equally important, that when you talk about the open source is actually a bifurcation of two words, one which gives you the open and second is the source, that give you the freedom to access the source code of that particular technology. So where you have a freedom to speak, where you have a freedom to access the entire source code, this is what we called as open source. Now when you want to manage it effectively, that where you need some version control system, that if I add a sugar into the water, now वो वाटर की प्रॉपर्टी है वो उसमें घोल लेगा, मैं अब शुगर अलग थोड़ी ना निकाल सकता हूँ। सो इससे बेटर है कि दो पानी नहीं मतलब कप दो ले लो, एक में शुगर डाल के टेस्ट करो, rather than spoiling the entire water. That's where you see the importance of organizing the things, राइट? मतलब घर में आज चाय भी बनती है ना, तो पहले आवाज पापा की यही आती होगी, बेटा एक फीकी एक मीठी। पर अगर वो मीठी बन गई ना तो फीकी नहीं बन सकती है। सो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द क्रोनोलॉजी। समझिए बॉस, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है ये। तो क्रोनोलॉजी समझ के काम करना पड़ेगा। सो यू नीड टू गिव द स्ट्रक्चर टू इट, राइट? अब ऐसे अच्छा लग रहा है ना यार, कैमरा ऑन करो, हम लोग बात करने आए हैं तुम लोगों से यार। सो दैट्स द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। सो दैट्स आई बिलीव नाउ यू गेट द फ्लेवर दैट व्हाई द ओपन सोर्स and why it is important to create the version control system. And that's where the git is the most leader part among the all, because Linus Torvald gave us the Linux and he also gave us the git, right? So this is how the things work. So I believe now you all have the crux of what open source is all about.
Yeah, hopefully. So, like, you can always use the chat section. Peeps, like, you should write, like, if you are not able to understand anything, but after this God level reference, like, someone in the chat also said, literally, like, couldn't have explained any better. Really, like
यार पानी तो
amazing
सबसे बड़ा ओपन
example.
सोर्स का मीडियम है. अच्छा मैं एक सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता हूँ.
Mhm,
ये पानी है, मतलब मैं
mhm.
पानी पी रहा हूँ, लकीली मग में लग रहा है, अगर कुछ और तो नहीं, मैं पानी पी रहा हूँ. मुझे कोई बताएगा ये पानी पे कोई ठप्पा दिखा सकता है कि ये इस देवी देवताओं का है? कोई एक एक आधा तो बता दो. नहीं बता सकते कि यार ये
पैक
पानी इसकी है.
नहीं
हाँ,
पैकेजिंग पे हो सकता है, पानी इटसेल्फ पे नहीं हो सकता.
बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट लेके आया रक्षित कि पैकेजिंग पे हो सकता है, बिल्कुल पैकेजिंग पे हो सकता है. And that's where the two most important thing come into the picture. One is called FOSS and second is called OS. Free open source softwares and open source software. Now when we say free, यहाँ पर वो भगवान का लेबल मिलना ही मुश्किल है, क्योंकि अब नदियां बह रही हैं, इंद्रदेव ने बरसा दिया, अब आपका है, जैसे बटोर लो आप, उसको रिफाइन करो, आपकी इच्छा. सेकंड साइड के अंदर अब मेरे जैसे थोड़े दिमाग वाले लोग जो थोड़ा क्रोनोलॉजी समझ जाते हैं, वो क्या करते हैं, उसको एक बिजनेस माइंडसेट देते हैं. कह रहा पानी तो भाई साहब फ्री में ही पड़ा था, मैं करता हूँ उसमें थोड़ा सा कंट्रीब्यूशन. अब मैं क्या करता हूँ, इसमें मैकेनिज्म लगा के पानी को पीने लायक बना देता हूँ और उसकी सर्विसिंग ले लेता हूँ. एंड दैट्स वेयर यू स्टार्ट सेइंग द बिस्लरी, एक्वाफिना एंड ऑल, जिसका तुम पैसा भी देते हो. मेन इंग्रेडिएंट क्या है पानी का, मतलब बिस्लरी या एक्वाफिना का? पानी है. पानी तो पहले भी फ्री था, उन्होंने उस पे क्या किया, थोड़ा सा अपना एड ऑन किए हैं, उन्होंने अपनी उस पे इंजीनियरिंग करी है. एंड दैट्स वेयर द एंटरप्राइज प्रोडक्ट गॉट रेडी. सो बेसिकली द फ्री ओपन सोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर्स आर बेसिकली द प्रोजेक्ट्स दैट कीप ऑन रनिंग. पानी चल रहा है, बट इसी को अगर आप लेबल देना चाहो, अब ऊपर से आकर के शिव जी तो बोलेंगे नहीं ना कि तूने मेरी जटा का गंगा का पानी ले करके तूने क्यों इसमें लगाया. वो सबसे बड़े गुरु है ओपन सोर्स के. जस्ट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट पार्ट. उन्होंने पानी दे दिया, कह रहे लो मेरी जटाओं से निकल गया, तुम्हारे को जो करना है कर लो. दे भाई सबसे बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट उन्होंने ही दिया हमें, लिटरली, ट्रस्ट मी, किसी से भी जाके पूछ लेना. बहुत बड़े गॉड है ओपन सोर्स के, पता नहीं क्यों दूसरों को मानते हैं, मैं तो उन्हीं को मानता हूँ, क्योंकि नाम उसी का बम बम भोले, दैट्स ऑल, बस वहीं पे सब काम खत्म है. उन्होंने हमें प्रोजेक्ट दिया, बट उन्होंने कहा, उन्होंने रोका ही नहीं. सुमांत्रो ने जस्ट एक्सप्लेन किया कि फेडोरा तुम्हें खुद अपना आईएसओ मतलब बनाने की फ्रीडम देता है. शिव जी ने भी दे दिया, कह रहा है भाई साहब मैंने पानी बरसा दिया, अब तेरी मैनेजेबिलिटी पे है कि तू मैनेज करना चाहता है तो कर ले, तुझे बाइंड सेट लगाना है तो लगा ले, तुझे उसको बेचना है, पैसे लगा के लगाना है, लगा ले, मैं तुझे नहीं रोकूंगा. मतलब बिस्लेरी वालों के सपने में थोड़ा ना आते होंगे कि तू मेरे को टैक्स भर. शिव जी को नहीं भर सकते हो, वो अपना यमराज जरूर भेज सकते हैं कि भाई तूने गलत काम किया, चल उठ जा. So that's the important part. So now if somebody has to decide, like if you are a beginner friendly, if you want to choose any open source project, understand your capabilities first, that whether you are good in Linux, if you are good in like Java or XYZ, there are a lot of bunch of organizations which are there in the market where you can go and start checking it out. So that's how the things goes.
Actually, so like I don't think so. Like we need more explanation on like really like what was open source about, right? Like so. अब सर ने मतलब प्रोजेक्ट से बाहर की चीजें बता दी है, तो नाउ यू नो दैट इट्स लिटरली अ माइंडसेट, अ कम्युनिटी, यू नो, अ कल्चर टू बी अडॉप्टेड, राइट? लाइक सर स्टार्टिंग में कह भी रहे थे. तो लाइक यू नो सर, लाइक आई वुड से कि लाइक यहाँ पे रिगार्डिंग लाइक यू नो एंड वाला जो पॉइंट आता है सभी के मन में, यू नो, लाइक जब लाइक वी हैव बीन इंटरेक्टिंग विद यू नो दीस फर्स्ट ईयर पीपल फॉर लाइक 6-7 months now, and all of the other college people also, you know, a controversial question आता है दिमाग में, like you know, so I would say like you know regarding data structural Gautam, like क्योंकि हमारे college, like you know, I wouldn't exactly name college and all that stuff, right? You know, some people might kill me after this, like after I say this, but still, you know, many people say,
पीछे लिखा है ना, पीछे ना.
okay, कुछ नहीं हो रहा, ठीक है. तो like but I'm gonna say this, you know, like literally because open source has given me a new word, so I feel I should say this, you know, that many people think that competitive programming is life, you know, like many people think that you know we are gonna just go with the college life, you know, like because हमें बताई हुई चीजें जाती हैं. I wouldn't exactly blame the students, you know. Well, this session is indeed getting recorded, you know, और बाद में देख नहीं सकते, but like I mean, general thing, you know, competitive programming, everybody is into like data structures and algorithms. Nobody really thinks that open source can actually help you also land a job. Like, you know, many people like only think about job when they think about, you know, degrees and like studying knowledge and all that stuff. Like, we know that open source is much more than that, but, you know, open source can actually help you also land a job also, right? And there are many more things that open source can enable you to, right? Like we can get into technicalities later on, like whether you need to learn GitHub or Git or like in order to contribute and what or not, right? वो सब explain हो चुका है and काफी चीजें हो जाएंगी, right? But and in this particular case, like you last cheese, like, but I guess I would like you to throw some light on this particular thing. Ki, can we really go into open source that much, or like, क्या सिर्फ कॉम्पिटिटिव प्रोग्रामिंग इज इम्पोर्टेंट होती है, बाकी सब नहीं करना चाहिए, फिर लाइक क्या, लाइक हाउ शुड वी गो अबाउट इट?
Sumantro, your thought, and then
Okay.
अच्छा, मैं सुमंत्रो से एक क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ पहले. आई बिलीव उसके बाद काफी हद तक का लोगों का डाउट क्लियर हो जाएगा.
Actually,
I graduate of a government college of engineering and technology, बीकानेर. आई गेस आदो ने नाम भी नहीं सुना होगा, और सुना होगा तो जस्ट सर्च कर लेना. मैं पहले गवर्नमेंट लगा चुका हूँ, तो यू नो लाइक हाउ द एनवायरनमेंट इज. Sumantro, can you please tell them that from which college you come out?
I did not. So
What?
here's the
I
thing.
just heard that you said I didn't even went to the college. Is it so?
That's right.
Okay. Now, well, I just want to do that mic drop. So
Yeah.
now, people, you have the answer.
So
What open source contribution can lead you? Yes, Sumantro, please.
So this is what a long time mentor of mine told me. Okay? And this is how I understood it. So when you say competitive programming, and this is a very good question actually. लोगों को ये समझना पहले चाहिए, उसके बाद they need to invest their time. So when you say competitive programming, it means how fast can you solve a problem. It's that simple. ठीक है. अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है यहाँ का कि तुमको एक प्रॉब्लम दिया जाता है तो तुमको सॉल्व करना है, एंड द फास्टेस्ट वे टू डू इट इज वर्क ऑन द एल्गोरिथम स्किल्स. सो द बेटर द एल्गोरिथम, फास्टर यू विल बी एबल टू सॉल्व. ओपन सोर्स में इनफैक्ट जब तुम रेड हैट में आओगे या किसी भी कंपनी में जाओगे, they would only care about that much algorithm that you would care if you were to write a program in C or Java or Python or wherever. It's the only syntax that would differ. तो ऐसा सीन होगा कि तुमको बोला जाएगा कि, जैसे मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, आपको बोला जाएगा कि here is a container, here इसके अंदर मेरे को ये पर्टिकुलर फीचर एनेबल करनी है, इसके लिए मेरे को 4 और कंपोनेंट्स के अंदर डाइव करना होगा, उसके 100 और रेपोज होंगे, उसके अंदर के 4 और प्रोजेक्ट और डेवलपर्स होंगे जिनके साथ तुमको काम करना होगा. प्रॉब्लम इज code is not the only thing you are looking at over here. You are looking at complexity. You are looking at working with other people. You are looking at 1,000 other technologies which never are a problem per se. It's a larger part of how you integrate everything together. Open source teaches you harmoniously to integrate multiple projects. Like मैं आपको एक बहुत simple example दूँ तो ऐसा है कि मान लो मेरे पास अभी एक क्लाउड सर्वर है और आई वांट टू जस्ट हैव अ शेल स्क्रिप्ट व्हिच वुड जस्ट गो ओवर देयर, डाउनलोड अ पर्टिकुलर ISO टू माय क्लाउड, rsync that ISO to my machine. My verse should be able to pop out a virtual machine out of it, install the Fedora, give me the Fedora on a particular virtual terminal which I can be able to access from my phone. मेरा लेवल का ऑटोमेशन ये है, और इसके लिए बस मेरे को, अगर मैंने एक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग देख भी ली, उससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला, क्योंकि विद एवरी डे द मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड थिंग दैट आई वांट टू बिल्ड, द मोर टेक्नोलॉजीज आई वुड बी एबल टू इंटीग्रेट, द हार्डर solving this in one way is going to be hard for me. So I need to work with people who has solved the problem in multiple ways, and that is not definitely the fastest way. Here's the thing, आपको अगर मैं बोलूं कि आपके पास 2 ऑप्शन है, आपको एक सर्जरी करवानी है, आपके पास 2 ऑप्शन है. एक सर्जन है जो 2 मिनट की आपके पास ऑपरेशन करवा के आपको सही कर देगा, और एक बट बचने के चांसेस उसके बाद बहुत कम होंगे. और कोई है जो 2 घंटा लगाएगा, ऑपरेशन करेगा, बचने के चांसेस हैं. तो आप किसको चूज करोगे? Competitive programming is much like that. You can solve a problem as fast as you want, but it doesn't matter कि आप दूसरा क्या टूट रहा है उसमें. यहाँ पे आप जब कोड करोगे एक सॉफ्टवेयर में, you have to look at 1,000 other things it might break when you solve that problem that way. It is not just putting like कहीं पर भी कुछ भी कोड डाल के निकल जाओ. करोगे ओपन सोर्स में तो देयर आर पीपल लाइक लिनक्स टोरवाल्ड्स के हेट ईमेल्स देख लेना जाके, एनवीडिया के ऊपर बहुत सारे बन चुके हैं. सो when there was a guy from Intel जिसने एक टाइम पे कोड कंट्रीब्यूशन किया था कर्नल के ऊपर, and Linux Torvalds wrote a लंबा चौड़ा email public to him. By the way, वो कंपनी के email सारे public होते हैं. तो then here's the thing, कुछ भी कोड डाल नहीं सकते when it comes to big projects, and most of these projects which teach you how to integrate multiple projects together, they would be actually teaching you to work in the way industry works and not just competitive coding world works. The other thing is rank. A lot of people, मैंने LinkedIn देखा, a lot of people were like, मैं कोड शिफ्ट में इतना, मैं कोड शिफ्ट में इतना, मेरा इतना रैंक. I'm great. देख, I really want to have, let's say, that kind of a guy to work on, let's say, things like GSOC, जहाँ पे 3 महीने में तुमको एक desired outcome निकलना है, great. But when I look at them, for someone who would work for a project, जो project probably इतना complicated है कि इसको लगेगा 10 से 15 महीने बस project को समझने में, let alone काम करना. If that kind of guy is bought in, or rather taken in a company, it would become extremely hard for them to scale, क्योंकि they are more rewarded with 15 minute के programming competitions. Be like, मेरा इतना rank, मेरा इतना rank. The problem is, you cannot have that rank based system in a company. देखो, companies में जो issues होते हैं, there is a issue can be solved by HTTP है, उसको HTTPS कर दो और solve हो गया एक issue. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि एक इशू को सॉल्व करने के लिए तुमको 26 फाइल चेंज करना पड़ा और फिर उसके ऊपर पीपल कम अप एंड से ये सॉल्व नहीं हुआ है, इसके ऊपर भी ऐसे सॉल्व करना चाहिए. That might not be very encouraging to a person who is like very rank focused and like मेरे को बस यही कर लेना है. That won't work. That's exactly what I told my GSOC intern, one of my GSOC intern long time back, that if you are planning to focus on a rank-based system, बहुत खराब हालत हो जाएगी, क्योंकि लोगों के कमेंट्स दिखेंगे 6-7 हजार और तुम्हारे कमेंट कभी उठेंगे नहीं 4 के ऊपर, क्योंकि एसेंशियली तुमको जो पैटर्न फॉलो करना होगा वो पैटर्न कॉम्पिटिटिव कोडिंग का पैटर्न नहीं है. और दूसरा से here's the thing, here's a very important thing. If you buy a very expensive keyboard, so because I have tried it, मैं Ducky 1-2 mini use करता हूँ. I love mechanical keyboards and all. But when I use that, I have macros. So essentially मैं macro पे पूरा का पूरा प्रोग्राम का nomenclature सेट करके रख देता हूँ, वो सीधा कॉपी होता है. और competitive programming के समय that is like a game changer, like the fastest way you can get things done. Problem is, ये जो टेम्पलेट है ना, ये टेम्पलेट ओपन सोर्स में एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है, कि बिकॉज एवरी कोड बेस फॉलोज अ डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ वे दैट द थिंग वर्क्स. लाइक जैसे अभी गौरव को लेमनेड बनाना था, समवन सजेस्टेड भुना हुआ जीरा, दैट इज ग्रेट, बट लेट्स से ही डजंट वांट दैट. सो ही whoever suggested it, Gaurav would go back to them and say, ऐसे मेरे को कोड नहीं चाहिए, I want it to be done in this way. And the moment they say, I want it to be done in that way, it also means that Gaurav is not going to accept the changes, no matter how hard this person tries, because they can fork out the project, but उससे कोई फायदा नहीं होगा, because there is no actual contribution which would happen to the main project, which is Gaurav का जो project. It's the same way with open source, right? अगर आपको contribution करना है, you need to work with the maintainer of the project. And if they permit you, then only you get the appreciation to add your name to the contributor list. And that's how it works, right? It doesn't really matter how fast, it doesn't really matter how much time it takes, but there's a right way of doing things, and that is what is focused on. So that's the crux that even my manager told me. In fact, if you look at Fedora automation, हम लोग एक पूरा ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम का ऑटोमेशन करते हैं from starting of clicking on your login button to about 17,000 packages to install in it and the function testing. ये पूरा चीज automated. But technically, I don't even have to touch my system if I wanted to. If I don't touch my system, it would still be fine. But here's the thing: if you want to contribute even a single line of code in that automation system, you have to follow the exact pattern that has been followed, and all the code bases have that pattern. So it's not like how fast you can do it, it's the right way of doing it. And your PRs only get accepted. And hence, if you look at it, इस साल का हैकटोबर फेस्ट में एक नया रूल आया था, PR सेंड करने से नहीं होगा, PR accept करने से होगा, right? That is because a lot of us went ahead and said, people send PRs, but ये PRs का करना क्या if they don't get accepted to the project? So there is a slight change in the rule, and then if you guys have followed Hacktoberfest, you know that if you merge your PRs, then you get accepted, and you don't. So that's the perspective of how I would look at competitive code. Yes, if you want to get inside Microsoft, Uber, Facebook, you need to have better grip of data structure and algorithms, but that is for you to understand how multiple code bases would function, not how you can write 15 lines of Fibonacci series in 5 seconds and be done with it. Or link reversal, like linked list reversal and then be done in 5 seconds. No, that is not how it works.
Michelle Obama once said that success isn't about your how life looks to other. Success isn't about how your life looks to others. It's about how it feels to you. So it totally depends on you. If you want to be a CEO of any org, do you really think that Bill Gates or Elon Musk would be doing this competitive programming and helping to reach there?
No, sir, not at all.
कोई भी नहीं करता होगा. And for a moment, भाई शाश्वत, I was actually realizing that I thought that मैं कुछ drink व्रिंक कर रहा हूँ. मॉम को बोलने वाला था, मुझे दो दिख रहे थे. So
थोड़ा
now,
network issue है सर यहाँ
no,
पे.
just kidding. So on a serious note, basically, I personally correlate to the Michelle Obama quote that success isn't about like how people sees it to you. It totally depends on how you take it ahead, how it feels to you first. So I have seen in my experience that 90% of people do the competitive programming just to get placed in FANG. Reason being the money. ये भी याद रख लेना, जिन जिन लोगों को तुमने देखा है कॉलेज में 80-90 लाख का पैकेज लेते हुए, वो 5 साल बाद में कहीं पर दिखेंगे भी नहीं. ये मैं गारंटी के साथ दे सकता हूं क्योंकि मैंने खुद ने मेरे साथ में देखा है. But on the other side, if you are happy what you are doing, you can definitely create a history, buddy. अगर कोई भी कंपनी का आज अरविंद कृष्णा, who is basically the CEO of IBM, तो मैं लगता है क्या उसको मतलब कॉलेज में ऐसे ही कुछ किसी ने फटकार दिया होगा या ही इज अ बिग बुल? नो, ही इज नॉट. उसने अपनी मेहनत से वहां क्लाइंब किया है और आज इसीलिए उसको इतना बड़ा नाम भी और एक्लेम्ड भी किया जा रहा है. वो कॉम्पिटिटिव प्रोग्रामिंग कर रहा होता ना, तो वो 60-70 लाख उसको एक बार मिल चुके होते और वो वहीं बैठा होता. नहीं आगे बढ़ सकते हो. बट हाँ, अल्टीमेटली यस, अब पैसा चाहिए, ज्यादा अच्छा चाहिए तो एंजॉय करो यार, गो हेड एंड डू इट. मतलब एक अच्छी चीज ही है करने के लिए, तो कर लो, क्या फर्क पड़ता है.
बेसिकली बैलेंस बनाने वाली बात हो गई ना.
नहीं, एक और एग्जांपल देता हूँ मैं तुम लोगों को, एज वी आर प्रोसीडिंग टुवर्ड्स द एंड. मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. अच्छा, एक अनंत हो गया, एक अमन हो गया. आई नीड अ गर्ल वॉरिएंटर. इफ समबडी इज देयर हु कैन टर्न ऑन देयर वेबकैम and one can talk to me, I'll give you a very nice example and you will totally understand that why we all are doing. Any girl who would love to volunteer? ये दो लड़के तो हो ही गए.
I will.
Okay,
Wait a
Astha
minute.
is, okay, no worries. So Astha is there. At least I'll set up the part which I want to tell you all. Take an example. मैं 3 options दे रहा हूं तुम्हें, तुम तीनों को. First liberty goes to Astha and then तुम दोनों आ जाओगे. मेरे पास एक कार है, मेरे पास एक बाइक है. और मेरे पास एक प्लेन है, एक कार है, एक बाइक है, एक प्लेन है। लिबर्टी तुम लोगों की है कि कौन सी बाइक, कार, प्लेन तुम चूज करना चाहते हो। Okay. Now, first I'll go to Asta. Asta, what would you like to have? Like, if I'll give you this liberty, मतलब काल्पनिक ही है, but liberty दे रहा हूँ कि तुम्हें प्लेन चाहिए, कार चाहिए या बाइक चाहिए?
Plain, of course.
प्लेन, ऑफ कोर्स। ओके, यू गॉट ए प्लेन। जोन सा तुम्हें चाहिए, जैसा कलर का तुम्हें चाहिए, कुछ भी हो, दैट इज योर्स। आई जंप बैक टू अमन। अमन, व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू टेक? कार?
कार कार
कार ले ली तूने,
कार।
ठीक है। और अनंत अब एज मेरा भाई बेचारा लास्ट में बचा, तो ठीक है भाई, तेरे को बाइक दे दी। यू हैव द फ्रीडम टू टेक वट एवर द कार, प्लेन और बाइक यू विश टू, द कलर, द मॉडिफिकेशन, वट एवर यू वॉन्ट टू इंस्टॉल इट। एक कंडीशन है, कंडीशन ये है, व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू बाय दिस अप, तुम अपनी लाइफ लॉन्ग, मतलब पूरी जिंदगी उस कार को, उस प्लेन को, उस बाइक को चेंज नहीं कर सकते हो। तुम्हें मतलब यहां से अगर मार्स भी जाना है ना, तो तुम्हें उसी कार पे, उसी बाइक पे, उसी प्लेन पर जाना होगा। नाउ व्हाट यू आर गोइंग टू डू? अब तुम उस कार, बाइक या प्लेन के साथ क्या करोगे? नाउ यू माइट बी जस्ट 2021 एंड लेट्स से आइडियली यू वांट टू लिव टू 100। नेक्स्ट 80 साल के लिए तुम उसी कार के साथ, उसी प्लेन के साथ, उसी बाइक के साथ रहने वाले हो। क्या करोगे बताओ?
मतलब कहीं जा ही नहीं सकते तो मतलब छोड़ दूंगा ना, बोलूंगा अरे जा ही नहीं सकते तो करना क्या है अब?
ठहरोगे वहां पर। और क्या करोगे?
मतलब मैं सेटल हो गया था, मैं तो
अब वो तुम्हारा है, अब वो तुम्हें मिल चुका है, अब क्या करोगे?
जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तब यूज करेंगे।
जब जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तब तब यूज करोगे। और
बेसिकली सर वो तो ये लिमिट हो गया ना, मैं तो यहाँ पे लिमिट आ गई कि बस यही है,
यही प्रॉब्लम है।
तो आगे जा ही नहीं पा रहा।
अब तेरा हो
मजा ही नहीं
गया,
आएगा।
ये तेरा है, ये तेरा ही है। अब तेरे पास कोई चॉइस नहीं है, अब क्या करोगे?
मजा ही नहीं आएगा चलाने में उसको, मतलब चाहे कितनी भी अच्छी चीज हो, थोड़े टाइम बाद तो आदमी बोर हो जाएगा। बहुत देर से
क्या
बात है।
करोगे? फिर क्या करोगे? फिर क्या करोगे?
दूसरा ट्राई करेंगे कुछ, मतलब लाइक अल्टीमेटली चेंज करना तो है ही ना, मतलब।
अब अगर मेरे पास कार ही है, मैं उसी को
हाँ
मॉडिफाई करूंगा।
हाँ, टेक्निकली हाँ।
सर कार को
Technically
मॉडिफाई
modify
थोड़ी ना बना दूंगा।
नहीं बना सकते, बिल्कुल नहीं बना सकते, बट उस कार को उतना लग्जरियस तो बना सकता हूँ ना।
हाँ एक्चुअली।
प्लस उसको मेंटेन भी करोगे,
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
राइट? मतलब भाई अब मेरे पास ऑप्शन ही नहीं है कि मैं कभी मतलब
करनी
उस
पड़ेगा।
कार को कुछ और बना सकता हूँ, तो मैं एटलीस्ट उसको मेंटेन करूंगा, उसकी देखरेख करूंगा, उसमें और मॉडिफिकेशन करवा सकता हूँ, ये सब कुछ कर सकता हूँ। Just give a thought. I'm giving it, which I have personally learned throughout my experience. तुम सब जो भी यहाँ पर हो, I can see 46 people out here, except me. तो all 45 people, you all are. तुम सब के सब अपनी मॉम डैड के वही कार, वही प्लेन, वही बाइक हो, जिसको तुम्हें लाइफ लॉन्ग चलाना है। नाउ डिसीजन इज योर्स, यू वांट टू मॉडिफाई इट, तुम्हें वहां ठहरना है, तुम्हें उसी की केयर करनी है, तुम्हें उसको कितने अच्छे से वेल बैलेंस करके चलना पड़ेगा। तुम्हारे माँ बाप के पास दूसरा अनंत नहीं मिलेगा, दूसरा सुमंत्रो नहीं मिलेगा, दूसरा अमन नहीं मिलेगा, दूसरी आस्था नहीं मिलेगी, दूसरा गौरव नहीं मिलेगा। ये वही तुम्हारी बाइक, कार, प्लेन है। अब तुम इसमें मॉडिफाई करो, टेक्निकली स्ट्रांग बनो, चाहे तुम इसके साथ जो मर्जी कर लो, तुम्हारी चॉइस है। So think of a fact that now you have like just 24 hours. Whatever you wish to do, you do it, and you have to do it to your max. Because the thing is, you might stop, you might modify. Ultimately, it's only you to whom you have to craft. As simple as that. बात समझ थोड़ा
यही रीजन है मैं इनको बुलाना चाह रहा
Yes.
था, यही एक रीजन है मैं इनको बुलाना।
एक्चुअली
No, it's just only that. And if you got the crux, which I just explained to you, at least I can see 45 people out there, just go immediately after this session, just go and at least say thanks to your parents from my side, or at least from your side, that क्या कार या क्या बाइक या क्या प्लेन दुनिया को दिया है यार, क्योंकि तुमसे बेहतर कोई है नहीं इस दुनिया में। हम तो साले झंडी हैं, राइट? तुम बहुत सही हो। और ये जो 100 लोग मतलब बाहर खड़े होंगे तुम्हारे सामने, डेफिनेटली अपनी कार, बाइक या मतलब प्लेन शो करने के लिए कि मैं इतना बड़ा हूं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। उनकी बुक का ना कोई दूसरा पेज खुला हुआ है, तुम्हारा पेज अभी खुलना बाकी है, right? So just make sure that you make that much health commitment to yourself that when I'm gonna reach at that particular age, I'm not going to showcase it up. People are going to see that what plane, what car, what bike I am, right? So just go out and say thanks to your parents. अपने भाई बहनों को प्यार दो यार. And if I have to say, like, I'm on the top of my hour, so I'm so sorry if you guys are not able to get the crux, which I can like share it to you. So for me, the family comes first. So just go and share your love to your parents, your friend, and even to this particular family. And that's all, guys, from my side. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, like once again, very much thank you to both Gaurav and Sumantro for coming here and telling us, like, I always say, like, whenever I use, like, I watched Cheers with Gaurav session, and like when I also talked to you, like, it's less
Like,
about,
share, and subscribe to my
yeah.
channel, guys, please.
I'm dropping links to like connect to both of these people. I'm dropping the links to connect to them in the chat section. You can go there. See the channel. Like, it's even more than that. Like, I always get some life lesson apart from the technical knowledge. Like, that is literally the biggest crux of this whole thing. We can talk and like with other people. Thank you for so much to give your time. I guess it's around the time like for that session regarding the kernel. You all can also go over there, Cheers with Gaurav channel and like watch the like basically they'll be working over the kernel integration testing, I guess. Yeah.
वो हम भी वहीं मिलेंगे, ऐसे ऐसे कोई गलत वो नहीं है, चेंज यहीं से उठ के वहीं जा रहे हैं. एंड
Yeah.
ऑल्सो वन मोर थिंग, अगर तुम लोग चाहते हो मैं गौरव सर और सुमांतर सर को गिर पड़ के दोबारा बुला लूं, ठीक है,
मेरी
तो
तरफ से हाँ है.
उसमें पोल कर लेंगे, एक पोल कर लेंगे.
देखो चैट में लिख दो, स्पैम कर दो पूरे चैट सेक्शन को अगर तुम दुआ चाहते हो. एंड वन मोर थिंग, इन द नेक्स्ट वीक वी आर गोइंग टू लाइक अगेन एज वी सपोर्ट दिस ओपन सोर्स एंड कम्युनिटी कल्चर, सो वी आर प्लानिंग getting GitHub workshop, and and we'll also be telling you about other open source programs that you can apply to, like, because today we also had Sumantro over here, like, who was a mentor at GSOC, right? And we also have someone who also sort of went through VSOC process, so we'll be discussing that in the next week, right? And I guess that's
got
it.
some strange smile after that.
Actually, Asma is the one who was in GSOC.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, definitely. You
Yeah.
guys do this Git session. I believe that is going to give you how you can do the commits. And let me work out. So with Sumantro, if you all guys agree, so Anant and Aman, just take down the feedback of the session. Please do share it with us. And everybody, please be open in sharing the feedback that you guys want to hear. Let me plan it with Sumantro according to our visibility or something. What says Sumantro? We should meet them all again. I cannot hear Sumantro. You are on mute. I guess he again got some.
Also one more thing, एक और ऐसा काम कर सकते हैं, जितने लोग भी हैं अवेलेबल, ठीक है, आपने अपने लिंक्डइन खोलना, गौरव से सुमंत्र सर को टैग करना, भाई लिख देना क्या सीखा है. अरे सर, अर्थ का अनर्थ बोल दो, मेरा अर्थ का अनर्थ.
मैं टैग कर चुका हूँ, लिख चुका हूँ सब कुछ.
देखो यार, देखो सिंपल है ये.
कर दो GEU ऑफिशियल को टैग.
I don't know. I don't know. That is up to you, because I even, like, Anand used to say me a lot that, sir, why don't you say that you go ahead and subscribe to your channel or something like that. I'm very bad at that. And rest, guys.
Yeah, whenever you are, Gaurav.
One important thing is, मेरे पापा मुझे हमेशा ये बोलते हैं कि यार, मेरे पापा आयुर्वेदिक मेडिकल ऑफिसर है, वैद्य हैं. ये बोलते हैं ना कि पेशेंट उनके पास आया है, वो दवाई लेके गया, अगर वो अच्छा हो गया ना, वो आके उनको खुद बता देगा. तो ये सिंपल चीज है. ये जो लोग, मैं बहुत बार डरता हूँ ये बातें बोलने से, बट ये जो मैं बहुत देख रहा हूँ, ये जो अर्थ का अनर्थ वाला जो केस चलता है ना, कि लिंक्डइन पे जा करके पोस्ट करोगे तो ही, इट्स फाइन बडी, मुझे मत बोलना यार. मैंने लास्ट में इसलिए एक मैसेज यही दिया था कि मुझे मत बोलो आकर के, गो एंड से थैंक्स टू योर पेरेंट्स कि यार क्या कार दी है दुनिया को, बस उनको बोल देना, मेरा काम वहीं पे डन हो जाएगा. Right? So that's the thing. So Sumantro, you are back over here, buddy. So Sumantro, what do you think that shall we meet them all again? And we are not able to hear you again.
We have to come up with a topic. As long as you have a topic
Yes.
in mind and I can support, go ahead. You have mine.
Done. So Anand,
I have
you have all the confirmation from the both of us. Just go ahead and do it.
Finally.
So you all guys
So here
come
we go
back
again.
here with all the topics, and me and Sumantro will see you very soon next, guys.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes. Okay.
Done.
So
मतलब
Kudos to you
obviously
both guys and thank you so much for inviting us and such a nice audience. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
देखो मैं
See
2
you
मिनट
all
दे
at 8
सकता हूँ,
p.m.
किसी को कुछ पूछना है पूछ सकता है, ठीक है, मतलब 2 मिनट
Okay.
yeah.
बिल्कुल ऐसे
Yeah,
मतलब
if there's questions,
एंड पे है मतलब लाइक हमने बस एंड पे है एंड लाइक तुम इतना चैट सेक्शन में लिख रहे हो चीजें मैं तुम्हें एक चीज बताऊंगा लाइक सबको लाइक यू नो बिकॉज अगेन हम सब यू नो लाइक आई वुडंट एग्जैक्टली से डरते हैं बट लाइक this was the last thing that happened you know regarding competitive programming open source culture and all that I really felt the need and like we all really felt the need ki it needs to go out like to reach to the people should actually know ki what the real world is actually like what you will do and that's why we called both of them like who have experience in industry to tell you all about what is really happening out there right ki what you should do and like how you should go about things right and it's not like we are against competitive programming or anything right it definitely has its place you know I personally feel that competitive programming is something which can help me you know build my mindset you know to solve things faster to approach things in a better and different way right it definitely builds that and we are not against anything right we are just some people you know telling you about us right that's how I guess Gaurav and Sumantro would also put it right just sharing experiences right that's what really matters and I guess we don't really see any questions in the chat section that's it guys
अच्छा
thoughts about pricing
लास्ट बीट ऑफ एडवाइस देके जाता हूँ आज की
definitely
एडवाइस है
please
एकदम लाइव एक्सपीरियंस के साथ आधे घंटे पहले मतलब आधे घंटे नहीं इस सेशन के आधे घंटे से पहले मतलब 3:30 बजे के आसपास मेरे साथ ये इंसिडेंट हुआ और आई वाज लाइक ब्लोन ऑफ एंड आई जस्ट कोरिलेटेड विद माय लाइफ एंड यू ऑल कैन आल्सो डू इट सिग्नल के बारे में किसने किसने सुना है
सिग्नल ओपन सोर्स मैसेजिंग ऐप
yeah
व्हाट्सएप या
really yeah
राइट
using it
हुआ क्या आज उसके साथ एलन मस्क ने एक ट्वीट किया था खाली
नंबर 1 पे ट्वीट करा 1100% बढ़ गए हैं उसके स्टॉक्स।
स्टॉक्स बढ़ गए हैं काम ऐसा ही करना कि तुम्हारा एक ट्वीट है ना इतनी तबाही मचाए
और
करना तो ऐसा ही करना वरना मत
अरे
करना
अरे अरे क्या बोल
वरना
रहे
मत
सर ये?
करना सिंपल सी कहानी है भाई एलन मस्क का ये भी था उसका ट्वीट
भाई
इसीलिए उसको
ये
रिस्पेक्ट मिलती है कि वो उसने यही बात बोली थी रिचेस्ट मैन ठीक है भाई काम कर लेते हैं आज सक्सेस दूसरों को मनाने दो तुम्हारे काम की मैं यहाँ पर बैठ करके अगर यही टाइटल बोलने बैठ जाऊँ ना आई एम आर्किटेक्ट लेवल 17 आई एम वर्किंग एज एसोसिएट सोल्यूशन आर्किटेक्ट आई एम रिपोर्टिंग टू सीटीओ ऑफ रेड हैट इंडिया मैं 2 घंटे उसी में बिता लेता हूँ फिर तुम बात कर लोगे मेरे से फिर टैग कर दोगे मेरे को लिंक्डइन पे टैग कर दोगे सुमंत्रो को लिंक्डइन पे टैग कर दोगे उनको ट्विटर पे ही रिपोर्ट्स टू ही हैज अ टॉक विद डैन वॉल्श कौन है भाई उसने एससी लिनक्स बनाया फोटो खींच के डाल देते हैं फिर doesn't work भाई हमें तुम्हारी लाइफ इजी करनी है we want to create your life simpler by doing our contributions understand these facts and all the people who says that I don't have time खाली ग्लास उल्टा करके उनके ऊपर रख के आ जाना कोई मतलब नहीं है बकवास बातें हैं अगर बात करने का टाइम नहीं है ना इस दुनिया में किसी के पास तो भाई साहब बोरिया बिस्तर बांधो छोड़ो इंडस्ट्री और भाग जाओ यहाँ से खाली एक सोशल फेम के लिए वहां पर बैठे हैं that doesn't make any sound good. So just a simple piece of advice before I like switch out because I also do have to go and just talk about my parents. So do something good that every single individual trends can take you to number 1. That's all. 1100 करोड़ भी आएंगे और इतिहास भी हम मिलके बनाएंगे भूल मत जाना भाइयों जो भी हो मतलब कहीं पता चले गौरव शर्मा का नाम ही उड़ा दिया गौरव शर्मा और सुमंत्रो को साथ में ही टैग करना अगर कहीं पे करो तो अकेले को करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि मैं खुद इनसे ही बहुत कुछ सीखा है बैठा हूँ सिंपल सी कहानी है टैग करना तो सबको करना, किसी को ही मत करना, कोई
अभी तो बताया ही नहीं पूरा, अभी तो
तो चुप
सुमंत्र
रह,
सर गौरव
हम
सर
निकल रहे
कुछ भी नहीं
हैं। सुमंत्र सर जी चलो, अब ये ऐसे ही करेगा। So you guys continue. I have to just step because of my parents are there. So I have to just go and see them.
Definitely, sir.
See you all at 8
See
to
you.
9 p.m. where me and Sumantro again gonna catch you at one of the YouTube stream where we are gonna do the live kernel testing and tell you about all the regression tests and every single thing. And I'll catch you there. And some other day,
मिल जाएगा,
let's be back.
डिस्कॉर्ड में लिंक मिल जाएगा. Okay.
Bye
Bye,
guys.
sir.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
sir.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. सबको डिस्कॉर्ड में लिंक मिल ही जाएगा उसका सेशन का. Once again, that was literally a great session. Okay, so I guess people are leaving already. Yeah, fine. So see you all next week, I guess. Hopefully announcements वगैरह सारी हम Discord पे उस पे कर देते हैं. और if you want like both of these great personalities to come again, so like you all will be getting mails regarding the feedback form. So please fill that, and in the comment section write what you want the next topic to be, and like हमारे सारे links मिल जाएंगे तुम्हें. You can stay connected with us on Discord, and like someone was saying, any comment on WhatsApp new policies, right? Let's keep the controversial talks to the Discord server, right? It's unmonitored, I guess. Hopefully, unlike Facebook. What are you even saying? Can I go to jail for this? Like, I'm not sure. Anyways, you can all leave, and once again, peace sign.